Atomic gigantification was a sweeping Japan nation when along came a dude with an ultra attitude, a Kamen rider who's the greatest kicker of Japan. And of all, man, life's too short now, baby, to not talk big now, baby.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Kaiju Conversation Live. I'm your host, Elijah, and hopefully everything's working. I think it is. As we all know, if you've been watching the show, StreamYard likes to give me a hard time. But even though nobody can hear me, we're doing it live. Hold on. And here we go. It's working. It's working. So, as we always know, StreamYard loves to not work, but we are working. It is going. I can see myself. I can tell that I have audio. So we're going to rewind here, and we're going to get things going by saying, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Kaiju Conversation Live. I'm your host, Elijah, and here we are, episode 18 of this live stream show. I'm sorry about any and all interruptions, as we'll call them, from the technical difficulties brought to us by the lovely folks at StreamYard. That used to not be this problematic, but now it is. But we are here. It is working, and we have a great show in store for you. The person we have tonight is somebody who I have never actually talked to for longer than about 5-10 minutes. He has always been a busy man. He is a very busy man. He has a lot of things going on that I can't wait to hear about and to actually hear a little bit of who he is and what is going on behind the scenes of this amazing person who deserves no introduction because he is easily one of the nicest people in this fandom. He's easily one of the fairest people in this fandom, and he is easily one of the best in terms of seeing potential and good things and amazing stuff. So without any further ado, let's introduce Mr. J. Key into the show.
Hey, buddy. Thank you. That was that was really sweet. I was yeah, I mean, I know you got to hype up the guests and everything, but that was really good, man. It touched me right here, man. It's good stuff. Thank you.
Well, it wasn't just hype. It was true because honestly, man, like what you do, I mostly know you, unfortunately, only because of Toku Toy Town and our interactions, but you have been one of the nicest people in every sense of the word, from what we've done at G-Fest, our not direct work with each other, because we've never directly worked with each other, but we've
not yet
conjointly work together, and not yet. This is very true. So I'm really happy to actually be able to sit down here and get to talk to you, because I mean, Nathan especially has sung your praise.
Oh, that's so nice.
but I've also seen it, and I'm excited. And I think the best way to get started here is to go back to where we first started interacting.
Mhm.
I know that there was a like brief conversation in like the hotel room of G Fest like 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and that was it. But the first time that you and I actually talked was over this guy.
Oh yes, yes, yeah. That would have been like 2 years ago, right?
2 years ago,
Yeah.
my first Safubi.
Oh, nice. Yes.
You
I did
and
my job.
you did your job. You provided some great input, and you said that this had one of your favorite toy line titles
Oh
because
yeah. Oh.
it is, isn't it like the toy line for the children of the 20th century
Of
or
the toy,
something?
yes, yeah, yeah. Oh man, I love like the Toy Graph and all those. Like they have their great series or toy line names. Oh yeah, and I love that. I love the colorway on that one. It's beautiful. Yes. No. You got a good piece there. That's not you're not one of the people I tricked and got him some crap piece or whatever. No, you got a good one.
Now, I believe this is technically called the Hawaiian colorway. I think.
Yeah. So a lot of times I know it might have been Bullmark after Marathon to like early 70s when they would start. Obviously, Hawaii, huge Japanese population, Hawaii, and a lot of people would obviously back then even more so would commute through Hawaii to get to the States. And I believe it was Bullmark started producing Hawaii only colorways, which are bright and colorful and everything. And they kind of picked up, and now we use them. Basically anything that's kind of a fun, bright color. Sometimes we'll call it the Hawaii colorway. Obviously, they are outside of just that geographical restriction nowadays. But that was one of those, that bright blue with the cream. I mean, I love it. There's been a Soviet Life does a really good Godzilla in that colorway. It's one of my favorites. It's great.
Yeah, and you know, since this guy 2 years ago, sans the couple of Safubi I've purchased from Mr. Michael Hamilton, I have only bought Safubi from you, and
nice.
That means that I bought, I think, 3 or 4 this year.
Yeah, dude, you were loading up. I saw. I mean, you had like, grocery sacks full of them. The good news is, as you grow your Safubi collection, there's so many good resellers like me, but also the ones where you can go directly to the artists and the independent companies to buy them in Japan, and even here in the US. Now we have a lot of, the vinyl toy scene is very vibrant, and we see a lot of people doing their best, Safubi and sometimes even using the same techniques with the roto casting and everything. It's pretty cool. It's it's one of those slippery slopes, but it's a good slippery slope. And, you look at my collection 5 years ago, and it's X Plus and it's vintage Bandai and all that good stuff. And now literally it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Safubi. And that's it. And there's no turning back either. It's not like, it's crazy, but it is a fun crazy.
Yeah. See, one of the things I was actually just thinking about this, I want to say it was like 2 days ago or something. So I have roughly, I want to say I have about 7 Safubi now. I have a Godzilla 66, a blue Megalon that kind of looks like this.
Yeah.
Medical Jet Jaguar, which I got from you. I think I got the Megalon from you as well.
And did you get it? If I remember correctly, did you get the Candy Case Hedera?
Yeah.
Yes. Medicom?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a cool piece too. Yeah.
From Michael, I also got a 1973 Gigan that is like a light green kind of.
Is it a Gigabrain?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, because they're one of the few that actually do this 73 Gigan. Usually they don't delineate the years too much, but Gigabrain, of course, does.
And then I also actually forgot, I did buy a 1984, I think it's Gigabrain Godzilla 84 from my friend Adrian.
Oh, cool.
So
Adrian Settle?
Yes.
Oh, Adrian, I love Godzilla Train, man. He's my boy. He's a fellow Texan. He's down here. He's one of my favorite people. He's a good dude.
He's a great person.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot, but I was thinking about it because for me right now, one of my biggest problems is my collection. So I have it's weird to say this now, but it's true. I have over 300 Japanese films on physical media.
Yeah.
So like a whole wall is just Japanese movies. And I keep buying more. I just had stuff come in yesterday.
I love
It
that.
just for me, that's like a huge slippery slope of like I've almost, my list of like 400 titles, I've almost knocked everything off.
Oh, that's amazing, dude. Yeah, I mean, that is like, I mean, physical media obviously is getting harder and harder to find. But if you ever come down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's a really cool shop here, and they both have a ton of Safubi and a ton of really cool stuff, but they have a huge section of the upstairs of this antique mall, and it's called Leviathan Collectibles and Spider's Cave. And it's basically equal parts Safubi and kind of cool Japanese toys, movie posters, and then physical media, mostly VHS, some beta, some laser disc and stuff, but mostly VHS, and it's almost exclusively horror, sci-fi, and almost all of it is like foreign titles too. There's obviously a lot of US stuff releases as well, but there's a huge Japanese selection of, everything from like kaiju and tokusatsu films, but also like low budget indie horror in Japan. Like that, the guy that runs it is a great dude. He's that's his like favorite thing. And so it's a really, really cool thing. It has it's set up like an old VHS store, but it's like you're walking down the aisle and there's like all these Japanese VHS, beautiful cover art and all that good stuff. It's really cool. Very cool place.
That's scary. That sounds like that's a very dangerous place.
Yeah.
For me
it
to
is.
Go.
It is. It is. My buddy Jacob Walsh, he does YHS on Monster Island with me. He was in town for Kaiju Go, and him and his girlfriend are. I'm not a horror person. Like that's not a genre that I know anything about or really gravitate to. But he is. He is like that's his like thing. And like I felt almost bad taking them to that store because like they came out of it just like, well, here's like 3 months rent, just in buying cool like yokai, Safubi, and rare VHS and lobby cards from wherever, like really cool stuff. And because we live in Texas, we get a lot of like the Spanish language Mexican lobby cards and posters and all that good stuff. And it's great.
So we got a quick question. Where's the shop?
Hey, Spencer, it's in Dallas, Texas. It's at the North Dallas Antique Mall is the mall. But then the whole upstairs is exclusively called Leviathan Collectibles and Spider's Cave. Go follow them on Instagram. I think it's like Leviathan Collectibles DFW. Really, really, really cool place. And the two guys that run it, Ryan Hartzell, is a great dude. And then Ryan Wilhelm, who a lot of people know in the community, helps out Collect All Monsters, helps me out at Toku Toy Town and YHS on Monster Island. Those two guys are kind of the brainchilds of it, and they love it. But it's really cool. Very, very, very cool place.
That's boy. Yeah. If I ever go, I'm I'm in trouble.
And you know what's cool? It's like for us, like the cool parts about like hanging out at G Fest and stuff is like we get to hang out in with like-minded people with the same interests and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. That they've built the whole upstairs where it's almost like and I'll use their terminology because it's so like perfect. It's like a clubhouse. Like it really is. Like people go and you just hang out, and literally they'll just hang out in the room. They always have an old school TV playing something on that's really cool. The X from Outer Space or whatever it might be. I think Matongo was on last time on VHS, and they're just sitting around just talking about stuff, and it's just really it's really cool.
That's awesome. So, now that's the seller. That's the seller for me to come to Texas.
Yeah.
So, for me, like I have a lot of stuff,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of my biggest problems recently has been, where do I put this stuff?
Yeah. Space danger.
I've officially, I have 2 rooms, mm-hmm. including my bedroom. I have a closet, I have a hallway, and I have a corner of the living room
mm-hmm.
full. I have no space. I'm out of space. Every time I buy something new, it's like, well, where's it getting stacked?
One in, one out, man. One in, one out. Yeah. It's space danger is a bigger challenge for a lot of people than than wallet danger, right? Because it's just like there's just so much stuff out there, and the cool thing is, yes, we live in a wonderful time for kaiju media, but also like the toys and the collecting piece, which obviously is very important to me. Like, man, it's ridiculous. It really is. I mean, you blink and there's 17 new Marathon releases and 6 new Metacom releases and 5 new from, from Bullmark and whoever else. Like, it's just nuts. And the space runs, you have to be, picky and choosy. And yeah, I mean, we all feel it. Unless you have a whole house that's just dedicated to it, or a museum,
Right.
which, I don't know too many people who have a spare museum, out back. It's usually limited to a room or two, and it gets full fast.
It does. And one thing I've been thinking about is Rex and I were talking the other day, and it was about like when I move out and wherever I move, it's like, well, I can't really just move into like a 1-bedroom studio apartment. Like I can't. I don't have space. I need a big space. So whenever and wherever I move to, I'm gonna have to like get a decent amount of space. I'm gonna have to have at least a whole nother bedroom, at least to turn into a
your roommate is your physical media collection, man. That's your roommate.
It will be. But one of the beautiful things about like Sofubi and whatnot, this would work on a shelf, and it would look great. It would look more like an art piece, a decor, instead of a shelf of collectibles. And it's still a collectible, of course.
Yeah.
But that's one of the most beautiful things about Sofubi is they are more of an art.
Yeah.
Instead of a toy.
I mean, real true Sofubi. I mean, it's a sculpture and a painting in one, right? Because you have the beautiful sculpt that that usually small batch, small production runs. But then most of the ones, especially the ones we get from Japan, from the heavy hitters, the M1s and the Marsons, they're hand painted, right? And they're hand painted by great people, like Godo-san, who has been, he's been doing it for 70 years. And, Yuji Nishimura at M1 does his own, paints a lot of the stuff. Like, it's really, really cool. And so it truly is a piece of art. And there's, customs, one of ones that you can get. And I mean, it just, that is the draw, really, is the art element. And when you also like the subject matter, because there is that, that nostalgic or just sheer love, that window, like a lot of collectibles are windows into, a better time or a happy moment. You have that plus the just aesthetic beauty, and you like it from an artistic standpoint. It's a home run. Those are the ones that, like, you don't even think about the price or anything. You just buy, right? And that's really cool. And what it's done is it's been a nice bridge for me to get more into some of the independent vinyl toys and independent Sofubi from a lot of great artists here in the States and in Japan, where it's not the licensed properties, it's their own original creations, but it has, so I don't know I haven't watched a film with that character in it, or a TV show, or read a book or a comic, but aesthetically it's beautiful. The form of the monster, the unique way they painted it and blend that's the draw. And I would never thought that way had I not made the leap to Sofubi so many years ago from, your more traditional X Plus and Bandai and all that good stuff. So it is cool. And like I said, it's a slippery slope.
It is. It's very much so. And, to add on to that, you brought up the window aspect of it. For me, when I bought this, I'm going to refer to this a lot because this was it, right? Yeah. This is like pinnacle classic Godzilla toy to me. Yeah. This is like when I think about, okay, what's a retro Godzilla toy? Yeah.
It's inspired by the original, J-Tail, L-Tail from Marathon. Like, yeah, absolutely.
And for me, it's like, that also one thing that I have noticed in myself as my journey through tokusatsu, as I've called it, since 2020 to now, is most of the stuff I watch now is just Japanese. Most of my content I consume every year is Japanese content. And I've noticed that I've taken that into inspirations, whether it be my short films or, now I study Japanese every single day. I'm really gunning for an N5 level comprehension by the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
I have friends in Japan that I talk to semi-frequently. and I work on Japanese films now, so it's one of those things where for me, the Sofubi toy-esque style is inherently Japanese, right?
Mhm.
And that's something that it tracks, that when I started in 2020, I would drift a little bit farther away from your traditional Bandai, Playmates, whatever, X Plus, and go to that more artistically inclined Sofubi style figure. And it makes sense because one thing that I've always appreciated about Japanese content, especially the non-fiction Japanese content, is the Japanese culture often values art and fantasy over realism and factual evidence. And so you see in a lot of the entertainment and the content a heavier emphasis on this art and this fantasy. And you get wild colorways, you get wild sculpts, but that's part of the appeal. And I think anime especially is a huge contender of showcasing that to the world. But even outside of that, in tokusatsu, like Sentai, Kamen Rider, whatnot, and Sofubi and Kaiju Tokusatsu Ultraman, all of that, you can see that. And it's a really beautiful thing when you look at it from that perspective.
And I think what you just tapped into and is what's really great about any collectible, and it doesn't have to be a toy, is like the fact that you look at, I might look at that and say, okay, it's a blue dinosaur looking thing, and you can wax poetic about it for 10 minutes because what it means to you, right? So and that's not like limited to food by any means, but like that's what's great about collecting. And they have things can conjure up feelings and connectivity and stuff, just like a photograph would, right? And so I think that's really cool, that you have that connection with that toy, and that art, and that what it represents to you. And that's what everything is a personal journey. It's a personal connection. And that's cool that you're able to do that. I think that's what makes collecting anything fun, to be honest with you. More so than completing a collection or getting something at a great deal or finding something, wherever. It's the moment that you find them and how you get them and the people you meet along the way, and then it's what it means to you. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think to that point, I think that's why a lot of collectors, I have never been one to feel like I can easily like sell my stuff. I've always been like, ooh, the day that I sell stuff, there's something wrong, because it is one of those things that it's like those personal connections and those stories, and it's a really beautiful thing. Like any piece in a collector's display could have a story behind it, and I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like those are the ones that I don't sell a ton, but almost like 100% of what I sell are things that I was like, ooh, this is great, I'm going to pre-order it. Oh, I like this one. This looks pretty cool. There's no like, I wasn't hanging out and having a great day talking to my buddies at Leviathan Collectibles or at G-Fest or wherever. And like, oh, I'm picking this up because it's really cool. And it's my keepsake, my connection point back to that moment that was really great, or it's from somebody that's really cool and that I really like. And so like, yeah, I think that is the essence of collecting. I always and it's also cool because then you start kind of fine tuning down to like what really means something to you. And it might be a certain character, or it might be a certain, things that you got at a certain place or a certain time in your life. And it's kind of the collector's arc, is beautifully described by Mark Nagata in one of his videos that he did for the Magnificent World of Toys. He talks about the collector's arc. And I think that's it, is like when you get to that place where you only get what you like, or it's something that means something to you, and all the other stuff is just noise. That's great, because a lot of us grew up, especially collecting here in American toys. It's like you don't cherry pick your Star Wars figures or your Ninja Turtles. And no, you get the whole thing, right? The goal is to get all of them, and that's that with Sofubi. That's not possible with Kaiju toys because there's too many, and there's too many that are one-offs, and there's too many that are, that are singular art pieces. I think it's great. It's a great place. It's a great headspace to be in as a collector when you get what you really, really like and that means something to you, and everything else kind of just goes by the wayside.
Now, as we kind of, we've been talking here a bit about toys and a little bit of selling. So I really got to know, where did Toku Toy Town come from?
It's funny. It's I always I have kind of like my three-headed kaiju monster, my triumvirate, my King Ghidorah, if you will. I YHS on Monster Island, Toku Toy Town, and Kaiju Go, and they all play off each other because one wouldn't exist without the other. And it actually started a while ago. I was so in my normal job, I'm in digital marketing, and I worked for Keurig Dr. Pepper for a long time, and so I did a lot of the brand marketing and stuff and digital campaigns and stuff for our big brands. And so I was, when we were launching, I promise this turns back to Godzilla, I promise. And it's not just because of Dr. Pepper, in 1984. So we were doing some work for Dr. Pepper Dark Berry, which was tying into one of the Spider-Man movies from Marvel. And so I was doing some campaigns, and I was tapping into some influencers to do some marketing for us. And one of the podcasts that I personally listened to at the time, and it was just an audio podcast at the time, was Yes, Have Some. And they're very big into the Ghostbusters space, like very, very, very big, like Jason Reitman's personal friends of theirs, their red carpet interviews. They're great. Craig, Abby, and Jake are amazing. And they started way back many, many years ago podcasting. And they, and so I reached out to them because, like, personally, I liked their show. They had a great vibe. They did funny content. And I was asked them if they wanted to be one of our influencers for Dr. Pepper Dark Berry, and they said yes, and it was awesome. So I flew out to Atlanta to go on a little influencer shoot. Not a big studio stuff. It was supposed to be authentic and real and goofy and silly. But I met them for the first time in person, and Jake is a big Godzilla fan, and we're about the same age. I'm a little older than him, a few years older than him, and but we were talking, and it wasn't just the fact that we knew the same movies, we could have a conversation with somebody about, Baragon, and they knew what the hell we were talking about. It was like we went through similar journeys, right? Like we went through where we, us of a certain age, especially like kind of growing up in the 80s and early 90s, there wasn't a ton really in toy-wise, from the Imperial Godzilla until Trendmasters, and from films, it was like, to VHSs and stuff, but we always felt we were on an island, and like we're the only people in the world that knew anything about Godzilla, and it was a lonely place, right? And so that's why both of us really never jumped into the fandom as much as quickly and as big as a lot of other people, because like it never was a thing for us. It was like, no, this is our thing. Like I lived in Chicago for 5 years and never went to G-Fest because I was like, no conventions, no, whatever. It's my thing, right? Nobody else actually likes this. This is not a real thing, It's like my G-Fan magazines from the early 90s, and that's it, right? And anyway, and so we became like buds, right? Buds, and then moving forward to like 2021, Jake was like, hey dude, I want to do a podcast about kaiju, would you do it with me? I'm like, for sure, man, I would absolutely love to. And so Jake and I, who are good buddies, like literally just started recording our conversations, and YHS on Monster Island was born. And we're 3 years into this thing, 130 episodes, whatever it is, and we have a ball. It's literally like recording with him. It's like the same now as it was 3 years ago. And it was great. But as part of that, during our show, we always talk about pickups, right? We always talk about toy pickups, and we just started, like, it just became a bigger conversation point, and a bigger and bigger and bigger. And I kept on buying more and more and more, and kept on talking to people in Japan and other places that were into the space. And I was able to kind of put together a little business model to like, hey, I can kind of do this after the kids go to bed, like whatever, like we'll just, if anything, it'll pay for my collecting habits. Right. And then luckily, met a few people, and they met a few people, and we were able to get it locked and loaded. And the one thing, and then Toku Toy Town was born. I mean, that's really, it wouldn't happen without YHS on Monster Island. And then Toku Toy Town has been so great because I feel like myself and everybody that's helped me out has stayed true to one mission. It's not about can I get it to you for a little bit cheaper? Can I get it, what is the selection? It's all about like the memory in the moment. And that's why we love going to like doing shows at G Fest and stuff. Cause we want you to remember where you bought it and to sit down and have a conversation with us about it. And yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, point taken. I mean, that's exactly like what we want to do because, and Ryan Wilhelm speaks to this very, very well. And he helps me out all the time. It's like, our goal is to like, we want people to come in here and discover Sofubi and why we love it. And they might not end up liking it. And that's cool. I say, I have band, I have other stuff too. I love it, but like, that's our passion. And we just want to like, when people come in, we want to like share that with them. And whether they're like, oh, that's neat. Cool, man. I'm going to go get my X Plus, but cool. I'm glad you love it. That's fine. We just love talking about it because we always joke the only thing better than collecting Sofubi is talking about it. And it's like art, and so that's really kind of what Tokyo Toy Town has always been about. I'm not always going to be the cheapest. I'm not always going to have the best selection. I'm not always going to have what you want. But we love it. And we hope that you buy it from us. But if not, hey, I'm the first to say, hey, this is cheaper on Yahoo Japan. This is cheaper in Mandarake. This is cheaper at Kaiju Live. This is cheaper wherever. Like, everybody's buddies with us. Like, we just want you to get that collectible in your collection in a way that you can afford it, and it's great. And like I said, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's not. But at the end of the day, like I just want you to be like, hey, those dudes really, really, really like Scooby. Talk about it. And that's just kind of how Tokyo Toy Town was born. And we made some changes here and there. I've done Pop Shop Lives. I used to do that. And I've done a lot of toy shows here locally, but G Fest and we're doing Designer Con in Vegas in November, which is going to be really cool because we're going to be the odd man out. It's going to be 700 indie toy artists and then us who's like reselling. I mean, we're going to be there next to like Marathon and Sun Guts and Max Toy and all those guys. And it's really cool. And then so from that, I was doing these local toy shows with Tokyo Toy Town, and I met a guy named Chaz Foreman who basically came up to me. He's like, hey, I'm Chaz. I'm working on a toy. And he shows me a picture of his like rendering of a 3D rendering of a toy he was making, an indie toy, vinyl toy. I was like, that's amazing. And we became friends. And like, just right off of that. And then, a couple months later, we're like, hey, Dallas-Fort Worth is a big market. It's fourth largest market in America. It's huge. People love Godzilla. Godzilla's growing. We have a lot of artists here in Texas. We have a lot, especially in North Texas, we have a lot of great artists. We don't have a lot of great places for them to showcase their art and their toy art specifically. And so then we, over a couple, happy hours and just hanging out and stuff, Kaiju GO was born. And then that's taken on a life of its own now after 2 years of that. So once again, like, why chess doesn't happen, I don't develop this love of Sofubi and grow it and make Tokyo Toy Town. Tokyo Toy Town doesn't happen, I don't ever meet Chaz, and Kaiju GO never happens. So they're all linked. And I view them all like I said, they're all like siblings to me. I love them all differently, but I love them all. No one is best. Yeah, like I said, one wouldn't exist without the other.
I love that because I kind of relate to that, because I started off with my YouTube channel, and then I did Kaiju Conversation, and from Kaiju Conversation I've done Kaiju Ramen, which then snowballed into Kaiju United, and then SRS Cinema came around, and there's a couple other things I can't talk about. Yeah, but those are happening, right? So I can relate to them. I think that's really beautiful because there is, I think with every podcaster, if you ask them like, what's this been like? There is a journey, podcaster, whether it be you or I or like Joe Rogan or whoever, there's a story, they start a podcast and then they do something else because of the podcast, and they meet this person and whatnot. And I think that is something that's really amazing to see, is how people can go from an audio art form of just talking to, putting on a show, that is something that I would love to see happen where I live. Yeah. But I think that's really amazing that you have been able to go from this show to this store, this online store for anybody listening, www.tokutoytown.com, correct?
Thank you. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then, then you started going to different conventions, G-Fest and whatnot, and then Kaiju GO.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about all of that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, since YHS on Monster Island is the beginning.
Yeah.
I want to hear, I love talking to fellow podcasters about how they approach it, because like for me, Kaiju Conversation was a show that I did not start. I did not start it, but I came on board, and then I eventually became the one who designed everything, who, created everything.
That's your show.
It's my show. Yeah. I've had people, just the other day, I had a friend who listened to the first episode, which I was not the host on. And they were like, first they were like, well, that was pretty rough, which yes, it was. And then they were like, but it's completely different now. Like,
yeah,
whether it be the look of it, the style, the sound, or just how we structure things, it's completely different.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to where you began. So you started off as a fan of a podcast and then went from there. And I think that's really interesting. For me, I started with radio. I love radio shows, radio shows, talk shows. If you get the right people, it's so much fun.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%.
So had you even thought about doing a podcast before it kind of happened?
Not kaiju related, no, because once again, I was still kind of early on in like that. It was a personal thing, right? I was like, what am I going to say that these people care about or whatnot? Like, I just didn't feel like there was anything there that we would add, and maybe still. But I did actually have one podcast, and I say it was not my it was not my podcast, but it's a weird one because it's not something that like I necessarily am a fan of, at least for the last 20 years. So I had a buddy that, not to go too deep, but just going through some hard times, right? And he really just wanted to start a podcast. So I helped him out, and I said, okay, well, here's like, I can help you out and help you research and get the right mics and get the right setup and stuff. And he goes, hey man, do you mind like hosting a few? And I was like, hey, I can do it. Like it was early pandemic. I was like, sure. Like I'm here, and it's like, okay. And so I hosted and as the kind of the straight man, if you will, of his pro wrestling podcast, but it wasn't a wrestling, like modern wrestling. It was a looking back at stuff from the territories in the 70s and 80s and stuff that, I knew a little bit about, but he was he was the Danny DeManna of wrestling. Like he knew a little bit of everything. Right. And so it was really cool. And I kind of was the Sherpa, right? I just led him on through the conversation and asked, dumb questions and stuff. And that was called the Wrestling Life Support Podcast. And we did it for about a year. I said, hey, I'll do it a year. And after that, take it on, man. And even before then, kicked me off the show. Totally cool with it, man. He did not continue it, but I did that. And that was really for me, like just kind of testing the waters. I mean, it was, editing and things like that. And it was fine. And then when the YHS thing came up, it was literally like a month or so after that. So it was almost like I continued on, but talking about something that I knew something about, knew more about, and was able to like provide a little bit more value than I was like, oh, so what exactly was happening in the Mid-Atlantic territory in 1982, Donnie? So yeah, it was, that was kind of my first foray, and then it's been YHS on Monster Island ever since. So
you said you did research for that show, and you said that for YHS on Monster Island, you basically hit a record button.
Oh yeah,
and you just kind of run with it, right?
I mean, I'll put together some slides with like pictures of toys and stuff that we're talking about, because I mean there is a visual element to that for like people that watch on YouTube. But as far as like research, it's been a few years since we've actually researched anything to like your term of research, like making sure like we had the year right and stuff. Yeah, of course, but it's mostly just stuff that we know, or if it's a new, if it's a film that we have never seen before or something really obscure, like we'll obviously do a cursory glance at stuff, but we're not kaiju conversation. Like that's not our goal. I mean, that's why there is a kaiju conversation, right? That's why there's a few other podcasts that are great at doing a deep dive, like not teaching is too like, direct, but like they're really breaking down all the details of a production. And what you guys do, I love that you and Rex obviously look at it both from people in the film industry and people that are tied into film. I forgot which episode it was, Elijah, but when you were talking about how you just view everything in life like through the lens of the camera, right? Like that is like, when Jake and I talk about movies, we want it to be about two people that really love the space, that really love the genre, but we're not there to educate anybody on anything, or we're not there to break down like cinematography or things like that, because we're not capable of doing that. That's not our strength, right? Our goal is for people to feel like they are a third person in our conversation that we would have, over a beer, over a glass of water, or whatever drink of choice, after we watch a movie. And it's kind of that ambiguous, nebulous thing of like we want to introduce people to movies and be able to share our thoughts on them. Do we think that you guys give a crap about what we think? Probably not, but we just want you to have fun and like hear what we think. And hopefully if anything, it entices you to watch more in the genre. And that's the lane we wanted to play in, because we are not, and there's so many, I mean, I would lose track, but from the Gargantua cast and you guys and, Monster Island Film Vault and all this type of stuff. Like there's just so many podcasts out there that provide a very deep knowledge on these films. And that's great. It's like listening to or watching, at the encyclopedia, Wikipedia page, whatever, reading the books that, the resources that go into y'all's research. It's like the Cliff Notes version of that, which is great. That's not what we do. We really, honestly, we hit record. And I the best way to explain it is, the conversation that we have, with a few minor exceptions, like Jake saying, "Hey, everybody, welcome back to YJS on Monster Island." Except for that, the conversation every Wednesday, it would be the same. Like it's literally just doing it over StreamYard instead of like over the phone. And that's legit. There's no characters. There's nothing. Like we just talk about what toys we picked up, what we've been watching, and if let's talk about Wonderfest this week, or let's talk about, let's both watch Neo Ultra Q this week. Let's watch that and talk about it. Like that's all it is. And it's not original. It's not unique, but we hope that if anything, it's inviting and for people to come in and be able to like, hey, those guys seem like okay dudes. Like I want to know what they have to say about it. And, I'm for my own opinion. Of course, they're not giving me any great information, but like they're at least talking about something that I like. And we go from there. So it's really about that.
Well, just to throw this out there, and I know I only know this because I'm interested in the numbers, and I look at, I like looking up like to see what Google recommends on podcasts and whatnot, just because I'm curious, like, for my show, it's like, am I doing it wrong? Like, does nobody really care about, Robo Geisha, whatever random movie we're talking about. People did not want to hear about Cliff Paradox, I'll tell you that. But I'm always curious on that, just to see, what people are looking at, what shows are people listening to, because I am not one to listen to many podcasts, mostly due to the fact that my time is very limited.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But I know for a fact that what you guys do there works, because on every time I look up, top Kaiju podcast, top Godzilla pod, whatever, you guys are top 5, always top 5.
Oh wow. People
like that.
Yeah, I hope so. Like we, none of us were looking at this as going to be, the next great thing. We just were, having fun, and there's like I said, it's the listenership of Kaiju podcasts. There's so many out there, so it's like it is like a lot of smaller. There's not like one podcast out there or YouTube show that's like just dominating everything. There's a lot of little stuff, and that's not a bad thing. It's a thing. And so, yeah, I mean, we try to, but honestly, like when the topic is about the MonsterVerse or something broader, like we'll usually get more views. But our audio stuff has been pretty consistent. Like I don't think any of us ever expect that, an episode on Death Kappa is going to do better than an episode on, Godzilla versus Destroya. Like, I think we know that, but guess what? Like, we watch Death Kappa. We want to talk about it. It's all right.
Right.
It's
Right.
that's just what's going to happen. And like I said, we do episodes that have no like main topic, that it's just us talking about toys. We do our holiday wish lists. We do, I love ranking things. Like, I mean, man, I love lists. I love ranking things. So I will do stuff. I mean, like literally one episode, like it was a light week, and Jake's on like 17 podcasts. So like he's like he can't like, we have like very limited time. So, we're not like going to be able to watch the entire season of Kamen Rider to review it in 1 week. Right. So like 1 week we literally just did like the top 10 things at the Thailand Toy Expo that I think Jake would buy, like stupid stuff like that. And, but you know what, that's what we would do anyway. And those shows, like the toy shows actually do pretty good for us. Like that's like, I think we're getting a little bit more, I think people care more about when we talk about toys than they do about films. Cause they're like, hey, there's like 17 other ones over here. I can learn about this or talk about this. But, I don't know. It's just, it's the variation really only comes in when we talk about monster, and like we don't talk about the MonsterVerse in real life very much, so we don't do a lot of episodes on it. But when we do, people like do tune in just because there's more eyeballs on that across the board,
Right.
And they just stumble on us more. So I try not to like make every title like just start stuffing keywords in there. MonsterVerse, legendary MonsterVerse. But yeah, that's usually when it spikes a bit.
Yeah, and that's something the fact that like, so a show like Monster Island Film Vault, that Nathan puts in hours of research.
And production. Oh my gosh, and production.
Yeah. That it can exist, but so can like two people talking, and I think a lot of that comes down to, and I'm not as well knowledgeable about this as I'm sure you are, but I remember during my introduction into the kaiju genre, there wasn't a lot there. So the fact that like people, first of all, had known what I was talking about was like alien to me, and then them also like having or sharing opinions or having different opinions on those, like that was a shocker to me. So the fact that I think there's a lot of people that can relate and appreciate a show where you're not getting the rundown of how the director of this zombie movie from 2001 had a breakup with his girlfriend that thrusts him into a depression.
I'll leave that to you and Rex. You and Rex will do that. And you'll tell me like the reason, who was actually at fault, who his rebound was, like everything. Their social security number, whatever.
But I think that's very important, because I do think sometimes people get a little too, and I'm not speaking of anybody like specifically, but I think sometimes people forget that podcasts can literally just be two people hopping on and talking, because that alone, especially if it's somebody you share an interest with, that can be a very fun conversation to just listen to.
Agreed. Yeah, and it's funny, like the Yes Have Some podcast, YHS podcast, the original one, that's what they were, but with like, with Marvel, Star Wars, Ghostbusters, Jurassic Park, those kind of properties, right? And you want to listen to them because they become, and I don't want to use the term like friends, like in a creepy way, but like you're interested in, like you value their opinions, like you would value your friends, whether you agree with them or not. Like you do want to hear them, and they're entertaining, and they're people that you want to like, hey, like they thought about it this way. That's cool. Like that's neat. And they're fun to listen to and hear their stories and kind of their mad camp adventures and all that good stuff. And I think that's was an inspiration for us, is like, it's just, hey, like it is two people talking. And now if you find Jake or I or both of us off-putting, then, it's not the right podcast for you. But if you do like think, okay, yeah, these guys, they love talking about this stuff. They love this stuff. We're not doing it to educate. We're doing it because we love this stuff. And then that hopefully resonates with people. And that's the goal. It's not going to be our production value, and it's not going to be our the in-depth research that we do on stuff. Like, it's kind of like, if we know it, we know it. And if we don't, like, we may look it up, but it's not going to be something where it's like, here's my bibliography on the research for this. That's just not what we're good at, and not what we would do. And it would be inauthentic, right? To us, It would be very, very perfect and on brand for Monster Island Film Vault, or for you guys, or whoever, because you are a trusted source in that, and it fits like what you guys are doing. And like, if you tell me, hey, the lighting was bad because the key light was totally not at this degree, like, I would believe you. If I said that, they'd be like, what are you talking about? And so it doesn't work. At least, like I said, that's the math in my head, how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because that's, there is a place for all types of conversations. And you brought up how, for you, YHS was, it was like a friend, a friend and I there's an analytic. I don't remember it, but I do know there's an analytic that says that you can connect with a podcaster better than you can somebody who like you watch, because
I could see that.
A lot of it comes down to the fact that as a audio medium, it's harder to really articulate how you feel, because they can't see you, so they're hearing all of your reactions, your feelings, your emotions. It's an entirely a mental thing, a mental and audible thing. So for people, they can connect with podcasters sometimes better than they can streamers, because streaming, there is a little bit of that, like, there's a mask,
Yeah,
we're back with Kaiju Conversation live,
exactly.
But as a podcaster, especially when you're not going off of a script, you're not going off of a set thing, you're talking, there is a genuine connection there. And I think that's something that I have always felt with you, not only on streams or podcasts or anything, but in our genuine interactions. There's been a very pure and honest representation you have given off, and I think that's something that many people see, and I think that is one of your greatest attributes, is just how genuine you can be.
I try. I do, like, I try to be the same person, on all three forums, Kaiju forums that I'm in. Look, I mean, I think when you get to a certain age, and at the end of the day, like, what we all love, and this crazy stuff that's brought so much happiness to us, like, it's just hard for, how are you not happy? We all get to sit around and hang out with people that also like these, giant rubber suited monsters and crazy high flying Henshin heroes and all that good stuff. It's pretty awesome and just ridiculous in a good way. And, and take it a step further, talking about, rainbow colored Godzilla toys. We love it. And it's like, people fly all over the world and spend hours and hours talking about this. Like, it's, when you just kind of step back, it's a silly, zany place, and it's awesome. And it just makes me smile. And I'm very, like, my biggest, I don't want to say which regret, but I wish, looking back, I wouldn't have kept my fandom to me personally. I wish I would have, 15 years before I did, discovered that there is this huge community, right? Because there's a lot of people that are my age that, have been involved in, whether it's G-Fest or other avenues, a lot longer than I have. And it's been so fun. It's been so fun to really connect with a lot of people and meet so many cool people. And, that's why G-Fest, and that's why what we're trying to build at Kaiju GO. We're not trying to build a G-Fest, but we're trying to build, like, those types of memories in a community where you can meet a lot of really cool people. And, some of my best friends now I've been met in the last few years through this Kaiju community. And so it's hard not to be happy all the time. I mean, yeah, the world isn't happy, but, like, when I'm in my Kaiju bubble, I get to be very happy. And so it's hard for me to ever take that for granted, because it is an awesome place, and I'm very lucky to be able to, share these crazy passions with a bunch of whack-a-moles that we get to, which are awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to look at it. And I don't want to get into anything specific or really linger on this, but there are moments in this fandom that are a little dramatic and a little aggressive, you could say.
Hey, you know what, man, Elijah? I've been part of some. Like, I mean, not necessarily like in like the podcasting space, but like I've unfortunately had my moments of weakness where I've been like said really mean things to people about because I thought they were saying really mean things to me, and that was like my moment of weakness. So like it's happened. It happens to everybody in every fandom. So it's not nobody's immune to it. We just try not to do it, and if we do, learn from it and be like, you know what, like that was dumb. That's taking my happy place and putting it this, just soiling it, right, with this negativity. And luckily that was a very brief thing with one person that, it's not somebody I would ever hang out with anyway, but it was not a great thing. And yeah, like I said, it happens to everybody, but yeah, you're right. It does exist.
And I think it's good to remind yourself that this is like, I've went into detail on this on Donnie Winter's show, Growing Up with Godzilla, but for me, like, Godzilla was one of those things that like got me out of problematic situations and like could enjoy life again, escapism.
Yeah.
And, we even see that, Godzilla versus Kong, I hate the movie pretty much. But I cannot deny that if we're talking in the time it came out, the reason it resonated with so many people was that escapist entertainment that helped people.
Yeah. Theater of the absurd. Yes. It is, no, I love that. And Donnie's great. And I think that, I've been fortunate, as a white male that basically has, born with all the privilege, that comes with that. Like, so cool that like people like Donnie are sharing their stories now about what this has done for them outside of like just enjoyment, but like truly, and, like an escapism from a really bad situation. So I think that's so awesome. And I'm glad to hear more of these stories coming out, because that's what's cool about any fandom, and any type of anything really that allows you to get yourself in a better place. And that's really cool. Donnie's a great dude. And so I'm glad that that those types of things are getting out there now.
Yeah, exactly. And that I think this is a good way to transition a bit. We've talked the podcast, we've talked the store. A thing that I think a lot of people, especially when as a fan of kaiju, from people who, you and I kind of went through that, like, nobody likes this. I'm like one of like maybe two. I don't even know about the second person, but it's amazing.
Yeah. Allegedly. Yeah.
Conventions, get-togethers, meetups, and so many people have made lifelong friendships because they've met people at conventions, meetups, whatnot.
Yeah.
You have helped start Kaiju GO, which is it's done. Where we finished 3, correct? There's been
finished 2.
3.
Yeah, 3 will be next year. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I love Kaiju GO. I'm very like Why Chestnut Monster Island. It's my first baby, right? So I love it, and it to me like it is Jake and I being friends. Toku Toy Town, like I mean, obviously I did the heavy lifting on that. Like that's a like if this is gonna succeed or not because of Jay, and if I screwed up, so be it. Kaiju GO is cool because not only is it like Chaz Foreman, who I mentioned earlier, and I started it, it takes a community for this to work. And it takes so many moving parts, and it takes so many passionate people. But once again, we were very clear on what Kaiju GO is and what it isn't from the onset. Like Toku Toy Town, right? At the end of the day, like Toku Toy Town fails if I make it transactional, right? And I'm like, whatever, like, yeah, buy this. It's rare, blah, Kaiju GO is the same way. Chaz and I both went to G-Fest. We love G-Fest. G-Fest is G-Fest. It's big. It's giant. It's huge. It's the coolest thing in the world. The end. Like that is awesome. And there's probably only going to be one for our fandom right now. It's and that's fine. But where we felt there was a lot of opportunity were a lot of like micro conventions, if you will, 1-day things. But for us, we like that because when it's 1 day, you don't have to book all this time off of vacation and save tons of dollars and all this type of stuff. It's easy to get to. And then I mentioned before, we felt this market was a great market for kaiju fans, a great market for artists, but not a great market for events related to these two things. And most of the great toy artists in this area have to go to 5 Points in Brooklyn or Designer Con on the West Coast to be able to make money. And that sucks. And Chaz, by the way, is an artist. So like he has that mindset, which I didn't, which is great. It allows us to work. So, you know, we noodled on this for a while and we're like, hey, like what is this? What type of event do we want to do? And so we netted out with Kaiju GO. Like, hey, we need to bring this community together. And the best way to do that is Godzilla films, because that's the one thing we all can, that's the touch point that we all have. Whether you love it because of the toys, whether you love it because of the movies, whether you love it because of the comics or the books, whether you love it because of this, that, or the other, the connection point there is going to be the film. So we decided to do a double feature, but we didn't want it to be like, hey, go to your AMC, we're doing a special one, or your Alamo Draft House or whatever it might be. No. We want a vibe. Like we want it. And as Chaz puts it so eloquently, we want it to be like part art gallery, part house party. And so we tried to create a vibe. So the first one was at a theater that was, it's 110 years old. It's in an old part of Fort Worth. It's a single screen theater. It's, renovated beautifully and amazing. And so we wanted it to be like that cool, like you're going to a cool place anyway. Like if you're a cinemaphile or a cinephile, or if you're a buff of all film, like bam, you're going to go there because it's a cool place. And then we're like, okay, that takes care of that. But what's really passionate to us is our art toys and like these, Safubi and getting these local artist stuff. So other than myself and Toy Matrix, who's an amazing toy vendor, they're at G-Fest. When you walk into G-Fest, they're the giant T-shirt vendor, right? Gary's one of our best buds. He's the greatest dude ever. And so he does like San Diego Comic-Con and stuff, but he's like, I will do Kaiju GO. I'm like, awesome. And then so it's us two, and then everybody else are independent toy makers, designers, artists, most of them locally. And then we wanted to bring in a special guest that's really focused on the art piece, because ultimately it's a showcase of film, toy, and art relating to giant Japanese monsters, right? So the first year we had Bob Eggleton, and we had John Yerkeba, who does a lot of IDW covers for Godzilla and is a good personal friend of mine. I met him actually through YHS as well. But Bob and John were our special guests. They did a Q&A, and we had amazing toy vendors and great local artists that were there focused on kaiju-esque Safubi and vinyl toys. And then whatever. We went on the local news like right before it, and we sold it out. First year, bam. It's like, it was a small venue. It was like 500 some people, but, we didn't know if we were going to have 5 people, right? And so it was amazing. Everybody loved it. It was a great time. Drinks were flowing. People were having a good time. And it was community. It was just so great. And then the next year, we upped the game and moved over to the Texas Theater in Dallas, which is bigger. It is Criterion named it one of the top art house cinemas in America. It's where Lee Harvey Oswald was apprehended in Dallas. Like it was funded by Howard Hughes in the 1930s. Like it's a really cool venue, the coolest place. If any fan of film in the Southwest United States, Texas Theater is absolutely the best. So we had that. Our special guests this year were Mark and Max Nagata of Max Toy Co., which was amazing. We had a special Ultraman screening that I can't talk about because under NDA, but if you were there, you got to see something that nobody else in the world had seen from Subaraya, officially licensed by Subaraya, which is really cool. And then we had another double feature with Godzilla and more indie toy artists. And Tokyo Toy Town was there. Communities we had over 750 sell out. We sold it out 3 weeks before the event. Like it was amazing. Kaiju GO 3 as well. And what we found out through this, it makes our hearts just swell with happiness, is that community came out and supported Godzilla, Kaiju, these indie toy artists. We had so many of our vendors say, this is the most money that we've made in a single day of any event. And that's the win for us. because, hear amazing artists like, Matt Frank and Bob Eggleton and Mark and Max Nagata say like, this was really great. And we only had to spend one day, right? Come out here one day. I guess Mark and them more because they had to fly in from San Francisco, but you know what I mean? And that just warms my heart, and that these great toy makers don't have to fly to the coast to have a really, really damn good weekend, and then slowly getting the market to really love this vinyl toy stuff, because we're not LA, we're not San Francisco, we're not New York yet on that, and we might never be, but it's really cool to meet people. Hey, I got my first Sofubi at Kaiju GO 1, and they're only buying Sofubi at Kaiju GO 2 from other vendors. And so I love Kaiju GO. It just makes me so happy. It really does. And being able to do this with Ryan Wilhelm and Chaz, and there's a handful of other people that are so integral to making it like actually work. It's a family, and it's a friend group, and we just love that we're able to do this for the DFW community, because and it's something that like I wish I would have been able to do when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, and living in Dallas Fort Worth at the time, and like that didn't exist. And now we're getting to see, kids come up that are 8 or 9 years old that are like, I thought I was the only one that liked Godzilla. It's like, oh my gosh, us too. And it's funny, Jake, my co-host, flew in for this one to introduce Godzilla versus Biollante, and he told his story of that. And there were like, I don't know, 100 people raising their hands, be like, me too, me too, me too. Like, so like we knew that would resonate, and it was cool. I don't know, I love Kaiju GO so much. It's a weird, wacky, crazy thing, but it's like it's our weird and wacky, crazy thing.
That I love hearing that. That makes me so happy to hear that. Yeah. Wow, there's so much there. First, I think it's really. Allow me to throw this out there. This has just kind of been something that. So I'm very big into the concept of the cultural impact of things, and culturally what things mean. Rex and I had a whole conversation that it got recorded, but I don't think it'll ever see the light of day. But we dived into like the meaning of life, essentially. Because I'm a huge I nerd out for like those deep like intellectual conversations on culture and what's going on in the mainstream, and what people, what's generally going on. And to me, hearing that success of Kaiju GO not only just makes me happy to hear how successful it is, but I think it continues to prove a point that Kaiju and tokusatsu is something that the United States is starting to embrace more and more, and we're starting to see more grow. G-Fest has had its largest years. People have said like the most money they've made at G-Fest this last year. All Monsters Attack, Japan World Heroes, Kaiju Brooklyn. There's so many conventions springing up, and none of them are 8,000 people filling up the Hyatt Regency, but they're selling out. They're making money. They're being very successful. It points to, especially this past year, I have this thesis that I've said. This past year, we saw the highest point in Godzilla's career over 70 years between a Apple TV show that was beating records, goes right into one of the largest foreign films of all time, with Godzilla -1, leading into the Japan Academy Awards, it winning more awards than any other Godzilla film and sweeping that whole ceremony, going into the Oscar win, going into Godzilla Kong, The New Empire, the highest grossing MonsterVerse film and one of the biggest movies of the year. That section, that 7-month window is, I will argue that is the highest point in Godzilla's career, and it took him 70 years to get there.
Yeah.
And to see all these different shows before, during, after being so successful really speaks to just how important this time we live in. You know, we live in a time where 54 is a legacy film. You know, we the amount of people that can talk about 54 like it was a film that just came out, it's not very many. So for a lot of us, 54 is this like legendary film, right? We can't talk about 54 in the context of, you know, when this came out, this is how it was. It's this film is this, you know, this is the birth of tokusatsu and kaiju, and to some extent the birth of Japanese science fiction cinema. We can't talk about that in terms of experience, but we can now talk about this past 7-month, you know, time window. And like, this is, you know, Ultraman has never been bigger. You know, Subaraya knows that. We see Subaraya working with so many people and doing so many amazing things in the States now. You know, it's hard to not see Ultraman somewhere now. That's amazing. It speaks to, it's kind of weird, especially for people like you and I who, you know, one person likes this stuff, but now it's like in a cultural, talking about it culturally, kaiju and tokusatsu this last year has been more important on a global scale than it ever has been.
Yeah, there's been so many more eyeballs in that time period that you mentioned on Godzilla than there's ever been, maybe even more so than like decades that have ever been. And I mean, if there's money in it, it's going to continue, right? And it is crazy because I think so many of us are like, it's not our entry point, but like I think, and you probably noticed this at G-Fest going to panels and stuff, and the ones that you were on, like there are so many younger folks there that is their entry point, which is so cool. You know, it's like that how we speak to whatever our, you know, the first handful of films that we saw were, that what kind of got us into the genre. Like they're speaking about the MonsterVerse that way, or Godzilla Singular Point, or Godzilla -1, or whatever that connection point is, or Gojibon on YouTube. Who knows? Yeah, but it's I think that's what's so cool is it's not like I have to have a grandpa or a grandma or a dad or a mom to show me this, or a friend. It's like, oh, it's out there, it's there, and it is gonna get you. You're gonna see it's, you know, it's mainstream. It's everywhere you go. It's huge. It's in Times Square. It's everywhere, and that's and that doesn't mean that it's all like critically successful. That doesn't mean it's what you like. Doesn't mean what I like. It doesn't matter. It's just that there are more eyeballs, and there's lots of people that do like it. And you know, the person that watches Godzilla X Kong New Empire, and then, you know, maybe a year from now they're diving into, you know, Frankenstein Conquers the World, and then a year from there they're diving into Super Inframan. Who knows, right? Like, so like it's one of those. It's like it is a gateway to this greater world, and you know, you got to fill the upper part of the funnel, man. Got to fill the upper part of the funnel before we can get them down to like the other stuff. But it's cool. I mean, it's sometimes we have to take that step back and realize, holy cow, like, historians are going to look back at this time, and this is what's going to be called the golden era of kaiju, right? I mean, I hope not, because I hope it gets even bigger, which is just mind-boggling. But it is. It's like compared to any other time, like this is kaiju boom, you know, 1967, my ass, like, you know, like this is like no, I still like that one better. But yes, it is it's nuts. It's nuts, and it's insane, and it's awesome. And as you know, as a filmmaker, like that's more avenues for indie filmmakers and aspiring filmmakers and people coming up to be able to like more, not only like but like not more taken seriously, but like there's more people now that would want to engage with that and watch that, and that just, you know, that's only good stuff happens from that, you know.
Right. And that's something, you know, you brought up how like you have indie toy makers, you know, that's something that resonates with me, because I work with an independent studio. Yeah. Working on distributing and, you know, getting these Japanese films, these indie films out. I've on an upcoming episode, I really talk about this. It's really different, you know, from, you know, looking at it as somebody who is getting into this, watching it, you know, watching these movies. That perspective is completely different when you're actually, I don't want to say making a difference, because I don't I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I've made a difference. But working on these films and being a part of the legacy to a certain extent on helping bring them over to the States, whether it be through an audio commentary or working with the director on getting the music video and short films that came prior and whatnot, writing liner notes for stuff, all stuff I've had to do recently. It's really weird, and you start to develop an even bigger appreciation for those people that have $200 in their pocket and a dream, and they go out and maybe they make The Room, or maybe they make like Shin Godzilla, like you don't know, but that's so amazing, and the passion, especially when you work with these independent creators, you see that passion, you see that love, and I think that's something that grows on whoever works with them, because it's really nice to be a part of that, to be around that, and it's inspiring.
And it serves a purpose of the community too, because I don't think anybody at SRS was thinking that they were gonna strike rich with Space Monster Wong Mogby, but you know what? But that got into more eyeballs after their release than it ever has, other than obviously people that lived in Korea. That is so important, because like I said, the quality of the film or the wackiness of it or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just that you have to have the independent spirit to kind of do that work and steward that. And that's really cool for so many people to be able to do that. And that doesn't happen at a major studio. That doesn't happen at a major, distributor. That happens from independent companies like SRS and stuff that there's a passion there driving it more so, obviously they want to make money, but I don't know, that type of stuff is really, really, really cool and important to the space. And it applies the exact same way as it does in independent toy scene, it really does. It's not Hasbro and Mattel we're talking about, but these are so important. And they mean a lot to a lot of people. They don't go to 80,000 people, but you know what? The 800 that they do go to, it's something that they cherish for the rest of their lives. So it's very important stuff.
And that's even let's kind of go back to your work here, even with Kaiju Go, a more a smaller convention, a smaller group of people working on it. You don't have, might, I don't know, but you probably don't have a board of directors.
You're looking at it now. Me and Chad. We rotate. He's president one day, I'm vice president the next day. No, we're just it's just us two. But and Ryan Wilhelm helps out, of course.
For me, I saw my first Godzilla film in theaters at an Alamo, and then my second one was at a small independently owned theater. I saw Shin Godzilla first, and then I saw Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster.
Oh, very cool.
Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster was top 10 favorite theater experiences of all time.
It's crazy, man. I don't ever get to see any of the at Kaiju Go Day, from about 6 a.m. until about 2 a.m. I'm working, right? I didn't see one single second of the 2 films we show, or the 3 films. I literally bounce in, I introduce somebody, I introduce the guest speaker, and then I run out and I'm back at the booth. I saw not 1 second of Godzilla versus Biollante or Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla this year. I'm sure they were great. I've seen the movies before, but it's I don't get to enjoy that piece of it. But I do hear the first year we did Godzilla, we did Mothra versus Godzilla and Godzilla versus Megalon, and you can imagine that Godzilla versus Megalon, just 550 people jumping up at the same time, roaring when he's drop kicking or when he's giving the handshake to Jet or whatever. It is amazing, and singing along with it. It's kind of that Rocky Horror Picture Show type vibe, but for Godzilla films, I didn't know that could happen, and it's such a great theater experience.
And you've probably thought about this, but you are probably giving people their first instance of a Toho Godzilla film in theaters.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons that we're always going to show at least one Showa era film, no matter what. the first year we did 2, because those are most likely ones that most of our fan base wasn't alive to see them in a theater, even if they lived in Japan, right? Or over here at the drive-in, right? So we always want to give try to be a unique experience. Now, as the kaiju genre grows and more of these films are getting out, as like one night at Alamo, one night at here, whatever, like great, that's awesome. It might not be their first time to see it, but we're always going to try to at least have one of the older films there. I mean, this year, obviously, we had a chance to be one of the first theaters to show Biollante after the rights changed. So like we had to take advantage of that. Cause once that gets, out, like it's going to be probably doing the whole circuit. But, right. I do want to like try to at least keep one show up moving forward. And then maybe there's some more, maybe we tap into the Millennium stuff, but a lot of that stuff has already been shown, if you get to catch it in the real time, they've done special showings and stuff of it. So like we want to try to focus it, but we're going to run out of movies soon. We're 15, 20 years, but then we start breaking out the good stuff, man. Then we're like, hey, now we're going to do Monster Seafood Wars on a double feature with Space Monster Wong Mogwai. No, that's too. Maybe some Daigoro versus Goliath or something. We'll do some really good stuff. Yeah, but no War of the God Monsters. Sorry, SRS. No. That's the one film that should never be seen by humans. No. I appreciate everybody has their own opinion and art is subjective, but not that one. Not that one.
Well, I didn't work on that one, so
that's why. Hey, some better liner notes, and it would have been like Mount Rushmore of kaiju films. No, and I'm not even against like reusing stock footage and things from other film, but that one actually gave me a headache. That was hard.
Oh, it's a fever dream. It's
the Mono's Hands of Fate of kaiju films. Yeah.
So actually, speaking of War of the God Monsters, it's actually a good transition, and we've talked about a lot of like you do G-Fest, you do conventions, Kaiju GO, Toku Toy Town, yes, have some on Monster Island. But who are you as a fan?
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, I need to know first Godzilla movie and favorite Godzilla movie.
So, first Godzilla movie was I do like it's crazy, like 5-6 years old, like you don't always remember a lot of stuff or you misremember things or whatever. But I do have a very like etched in my brain moment of seeing my first Godzilla movie, and it was So I like a lot of kids. I grew up like a big fan of dinosaurs and stuff like that. And then my mom was a huge like Ray Harryhausen fan and loved a lot of stuff. So I grew up watching a lot of, the Jason and the Argonauts and Sinbads and stuff. So, this Greek mythology, the Sinbad, the Arabian Nights type stuff. And like, I love the monster piece of that. So my babysitter's like, you like dinosaurs and monsters? Hey, watch this. And it was on this big, giant, like wood box TV sitting on the floor, UHF, VHF style. And it was Destroy All Monsters. And so that was the one that was on. So I got to like, I was like, okay, what's going on here? And then of course it gets to, March of the Monsters. And it's like, oh my gosh, they're all here. It's amazing. And that was the hook. And I literally like, there wasn't a day that went by from that time for a long time that it was all about Godzilla and still obviously dinosaurs and monsters and stuff. But that was the thing. It was hard to visualize it because like I couldn't buy 700 Godzilla toys at the time, like they just didn't exist in the late 80s in the US. I had my Imperial and that was it, and the bootleg Imperial toys that looked kind of vaguely like Gigan and stuff. And you're the two-headed monster with 4 legs. But it was great. And so that was my first Godzilla film. My favorite, I think to me it's pretty clear cut. It's Mothra versus Godzilla. I love the Godzilla suit. I love the fact that fantasy is brought into the Godzilla series by way of Mothra. Before obviously it was very science fiction focused, and not to what we get to with like Invasion of Astro Monster science fiction, but like it was Taidu, nuclear testing and stuff. And I think I like that element. But ultimately I love the cast. I think Takarada and Koizumi, Kiji Sahara's so funny in it. Yoshifumi Tajima is just steals the show. He's the scene stealer there. I just think it's funny and it's good. And it's, I would say of all the Showa era ones, that one is the one I think that is, ignoring 54, that is like, I have to explain it the least to people that are watching that aren't kaiju. People are like, oh, it's okay. Like the reason that you see the wire here, the reason that this is over here, like doesn't matter to me. But like, I feel like it's the most I can sit back and think, oh, hey, this is wild but good. So that's my favorite. I would say the movie I've seen the most though, that to me is like my literally can be on every day for every hour and never turn off. And I will love it and love it and love it and love it. And from a Godzilla standpoint, is Godzilla versus Gigan. To me, like, I think that's just that's a nostalgia thing. Like, I remember like wearing out that VHS more than any of them. I love Godzilla Tower. I love everything about it. I love corncob guns, and I love. I mean, there's just everything about it is amazing. I love the fact the main hero is a manga artist, like not a reporter or not a military man or whatever, an alpha male. It's just like, nah, dude, he draws cartoons and his girlfriend's a karate master and also Ann Yuri. But it's just like, yeah, Ginkgo Kataka is like my spirit animal, man. He's so cool. and I'm not an artist, but I like his vibe. But that film, like, it has Anguirus in it. I love Anguirus. And so it's like, okay, great. It's amazing. So that's probably the one I've watched the most.
Okay. So good news is I think we can be friends.
Okay, good.
I love, I've not hidden it ever. I love the Showa era. That's what I grew up with. I love Terror. That's mine.
Oh,
Terror is.
I mean, I just took it down, but I usually have a big British quad poster of Terror Mechagodzilla here, and I have my Tom Whalen one right up there. And I have my Tomoko Eye autograph over there. Yeah, I love Terror. I love Terror Mechagodzilla. Love it, 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 love it.
I think it's really interesting that you saw Destroy Monsters first, because for a lot of people, when you ask them about, that was like one of those that's like, okay, it exists, but it's like, where is it? It's legendary. Back then, it was like that film is so, it's so far removed. There were some rights issues. It never got shown. It disappeared for like 2 decades.
Yeah, I had it. I mean, I saw it. I might be getting the dates a little wrong. I know I saw it probably. It would have been 1987. And then I don't think I saw it again because to your point, it never was ever really rebroadcast a lot. It wasn't ever on the monster movie marathons we would see on Saturdays and Sundays here, the local stations here in Dallas, Fort Worth. I think my first time to see it again was probably in the early 90s, like a bootleg copy from my dealer. And that you had to like send in. I just literally had to go to the grocery store, get a money order, mail it to them. Can I please have your bootleg copies of whatever the latest from Destroy Monsters, and then whatever the latest Heisei era one was, because we obviously didn't get them here. And so so it probably was a good like 7 or 8 years between viewings of that film. And it's not my favorite film. I don't hate it by any means. I do like it a lot. I love the Kilax stuff, but it was weird because it was like I probably have seen it a lot less than a lot of other films just because like it had these big gaps, And I don't think, as much as I love it, I don't think it has high as rewatchability as some of the other films. Even though, like I said, I do enjoy it.
See, I've kind of had that similar thing because as Kaiju Conversation has went on, that's when I rewatch the films, is when we cover them. And, for me, I've rewatched some, I don't find some as good as I remember them. Yeah. Some of them I rewatch and it's like, oh my God, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
What was I thinking 10 years ago when I watched this and said, this is awful?
Dude, and you know what? You'll watch it again in 10 years and it might be a totally different opinion too. I love that when you're like, oh no, this is great. Like, what the hell was I thinking? I mean, I think I did a 180, not a 180 because I didn't ever hate it, but to me, it was kind of like I would describe it as meh. And now it's like, I love it. And that's Return or not 1985, whether it's the English version or not. I like was like, oh, it's okay, it's fine, it's okay, it's neat. Like I have like I only like it a little bit because I remember when it was still like kind of I was like 5 years old and like I was like, what is this? And I still never saw it until years after that. But like I watched it, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it started turning. I was like, I'm gonna watch it again. I'm gonna watch it, and I watched it like 3 times in a week. And I'm like, I really like this film, and I think it has to do with the Hayashida character. I think he's great. I love his like I don't know, it's like a scientist and adventurer type guy. There's just a lot of cool stuff in it that I dig, and that's one that's totally changed for the positive. Not as many change for the negative. I would say if one, I've soured pretty heavily on King Kong versus Godzilla. That's one that like I know a lot of people do love it, but like it's definitely at the bottom for me, and it's probably my least favorite Showa era film, including Godzilla's Revenge. I would say I do enjoy that more than I do King Kong versus Godzilla.
Okay, I'm one of those people that like I rewatched Godzilla's Revenge.
I love
like,
Godzilla's
oh
Revenge.
God, this is great.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's not a Godzilla movie, but that's another conversation. But like it's as much a Godzilla movie as Weird Al UHF is a Beverly Hillbillies movie because it has a dream sequence of that. But I do love it, and I love the music. I love the character of Ichiro. I think it's great, and for what it's intended to do, I think it is actually very, very, very successful. But no, I love that. But I've never. I mean, King Kong versus Godzilla is one that's like, oh yeah, it's really good. It's really good. It's like, but is it? Is it really for me? Is it as entertaining for me as some of the other ones? And no, but I do totally appreciate people that's their favorite one. Good for them, and I'm glad, and it's cool, and it's important, and all that good stuff. But that's one that at least of the Showa era that's I've soured on probably over time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, I can agree with the 84 one. For me, it's more of the fact that I love the look of that movie. That movie is like, it's beautiful.
I don't think I appreciated that too. I don't, as you get older, like I think you ingest more film and more cinema and more media. I think what's important to you in certain things changes. And I think that's one thing that the look and the tone and just like how it's shot, everything, it feels different than like probably when I watched the first time when I was like, little, I was probably like, oh, it only has one monster and the sea louse. I don't care about that sea louse, like I think it's like, oh no, it's too slow and plotting, and then it's like, oh no, it's just because it's a real movie. And so I think, I think that's one of the things that I wouldn't have known when I was, 9.
One thing I love about that movie is I'm a little bit biased for 80s gritty films. I love, I love those movies where like half the face is lit, it's really sweaty, he's they're dirty, and the other side's like only slightly lit up, and there's like atmosphere like smoke or something, and it's dark and whatnot. And that film is very much that. There's some I haven't watched it in recent time, but I know some people have shared like stills from it where it's like the sky whenever the 2 bombs went off when it's like blood red, and you see this like dark destroyed Tokyo with Godzilla just there. It's like, man, where was this when I first saw it as like a 6-year-old? Like, this is amazing.
I feel like we watch it now. I feel like like Snake Plissken or something's going to be coming out around the thing and being like, "Hey, we're going to escape from Tokyo." And I think that's really cool. But once again, like it just, you change, and that's great. That's, who cares? I mean, that's amazing. That's what we change as people, like, about everything. Why can't we change what Godzilla films that we like and what and it's okay. Like, that's great. Like, I don't foresee a time in like 20 years that I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I want to go watch Godzilla versus Kong, the monster versus Godzilla versus Kong, not Kong versus Godzilla, but, I don't think that's going to happen, but it might. Who knows? I could be like, I'm so nostalgic for the pandemic and the movie that saved movie theaters. I don't know. Like, I don't see that happening, but, stranger things have happened. Right. I tell you right now, I'd rather watch that than freaking Mega Gearus. Anything better than Mega Gearus. That's it's a little bit of a thing that we talk about, like on Why Just One Island is my hatred for Megaguirus, and it's probably not as bad as I say it is, but I do not like that film.
Have you heard the people the opinion that Megaguirus got remade twice and it got better each time?
No.
So some people have said, because Tezuka
Uh-huh.
directed that, and then he
Mhm.
did Against in Tokyo SOS.
Yeah.
If you look at the plot of Against Mechagodzilla
Mhm.
and the plot of Megaguirus, Godzilla is attracted by some sort of power that the Japanese government is using that they shouldn't be using. They use a very technologically advanced weapon to attack Godzilla. It almost works, but it doesn't, and Godzilla comes back.
Yeah. And then they do it again.
In SOS. Yeah.
Except they add Hiroshi Koizumi.
Mhm.
Yeah, I never like, because now I feel dumb. I'm like, yeah, I like Against and I like Tokyo SOS, but Megaguirus is stupid. Maybe it's just I don't believe in Dimension Tide. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not into the G grasping. No, honestly, Megaguirus is it's not even Megaguirus. It's not some of the goofy CGI. It's not like it's one of those things. It's like, to me, like, technical flaws and things of that nature, like sometimes it's charming and sometimes it's dumb. I don't know why it works either way, but there's just something about Megaguirus. I just feel like my biggest takeaway of that, and I hate this about films, Hedera does this a little bit too, but it's just so out there, it kind of gets a pass. I just feel like Megaguirus doesn't always know what it wants to be, and I think that like the it's like at one point it's like, when they kill the not teenager, like the young couple or whatever. It's like that doesn't fit with like where you're going with this. I think there's a really good film in there, a fun film, and like I said, it's fine, but I just feel like it just is a little like takes me out of it a little bit because it tries to do some things that it doesn't feel like it's authentic to what it's trying to do, and it's and that's I think the biggest knock for me on it, because I can live with how terrible Megaguirus looks when it's flying and all that type of stuff. Like I can live with that. And I like the lead heroine. I think she's great. I think there's a lot of good stuff in it, but I don't know. It's just that. And I'm just not, and some people I know, like Kaiju Kim loves Godzilla 2000 and that era. Like, and that is like, cause it doesn't mean anything to me. It's not like when I came into my Godzilla fandom. And once again, another thing, I think there's good elements in that film, but those two are always going to be at the bottom, right up there with some parts of the anime trilogy.
I've always hold on, which anime film?
Of the three, like I recently rewatched this. We did an episode on it, so because I've been one of the, I think in the majority of Godzilla fans are like, I didn't like it and whatever, and then like, no, give it another shot. And so I did. And I actually do enjoy the anime trilogy. I think that from an idea standpoint, it might be one of the coolest things out there. I think like I love the concepts of Godzilla Earth. I love a lot of the stuff they do in there. I think at some points it doesn't execute it well. I feel like it's like 1.5 movies that probably could have been done. And I don't like, honestly, and I'm not one of those people that like, it's like, wow, they talk about Mechagodzilla City and I don't even get to see. I'm like, I don't care. Like, that's fine. Like, but Mechagodzilla City itself is a great example. What a fascinating idea. It's amazing. But like, I don't get to like necessarily visually see how cool of an idea it could be from start to finish. And some of the stuff, like, I think drags on a little bit, and there's pacing issues and things like that. And I don't know if if you have that connection to the lead, to Haruo, as much as you want to come. It's a little whiny but it's anime. I get it. It's a whiny dialogue, but I did like it a ton more the second time around. And like I said, I don't. It's never going to be my favorite. Now, Singular Point, I absolutely adore. I love Singular Point. I love Singular Point more than anything on every aspect. And hey, any piece of media that can get me going around saying orthogonally diagonalize, I'm all about it. No, but yeah. So Megaguirus and Orga, or 2000 and Orga, freaking Orga. Definitely on the bottom of my list. But once again, I still like them.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm right there with you. 2000 has never been a film where I'm like, oh, this is great. I've always struggled to find the love that so many people do for it. And it probably comes down to the fact I didn't see it in theaters when it came out.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. That's the other thing. It's like it wasn't my entry point. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, here's this. Oh my god, it's my first time to see Godzilla. And that's fair. And that's fair. But to me, like, look, it's a serviceable performance. Like, it's fine. I forget the actor's name that plays the dad in that. I think him and the daughter and the friend are great. Like, they have a good chemistry. And the eyebrows guy, the main villain guy, I think he's over the top, right out of central casting on that guy. But it's just not. I don't. Orga and the it's not as compelling of a challenge to me for Godzilla. And here's the other thing, the other reason I don't like that in Megaguirus, and this, I believe I am in the minority on this one for sure. I don't like the Miragoji suit. I'm not a fan. To me, it looks like a Skeksis from Dark Crystal, man. like a puppet. Like it's like that flat jaw, like that flat bottom jaw. It's not my jam. Yeah, so I think all that kind of, it's fine. It's there. I'm glad it exists. Not for me, for somebody else though.
You'll be happy to know I'm right there with you with that. I'm not a fan of that suit. I really don't. I'm not a fan of that one, and I don't really like 0203. I don't like long gnarly fins. That's what it comes down to. I don't like long gnarly fins.
I agree with you 100% on both of those. I will say the 99 2000 Godzilla, it's one of those things that's better in toy form than it is in film, because there's really cool variations on that in versions. Yeah, I don't. Some of the 2002 2003. I think the movies are better than the suit. They definitely outshine that, and it's probably the least interesting thing of that. And I just have a hard time getting over the giant flat neck chest area. Just kind of, it's not bad. It's not bad, and I'm glad they do stuff different. That's the other thing. I want them to try. That's what I love about the other part, this part of Godzilla that we live in now. Really, since Shin, for a time there, you could argue. Let's go back to 2016. You could argue that the only really true, unique, original versions of Godzilla are like 54, because it's the original, Hedorah as a film, and Shin Godzilla. Everything else is like, it's kind of a derivative of the other, and that's not a bad thing, right? Because like Hedorah and Bono just is whatever the hell that is, right? Like it is what it is. And Shin Godzilla obviously is a totally different interpretation of Godzilla, and then you have 54. But now you have the Godzilla Earth, and you have Godzilla Ultima, and you have all these different versions and variations. I mean, Godzilla -1, I would even argue, has like, it's just a totally different tone and stuff like that. Like, I just feel you have a lot more, you're taking a lot more risks with Godzilla, which is great, which is what we need. Hey, do we love waiting on Godzilla Day for a man in suitmation Godzilla beating up somebody? Of course we do. And that's always going to be there. But we've done that a lot. And so I love the fact that they take chances now. I mean, you could argue that all the MonsterVerse is one big chance. I just love it. I love that. And that's why, like, I loved Singular Point, and I respect what the anime trilogy did as well. Like, it's so different. And I want them to do what Shin Godzilla did. And I think we owe a lot to Shin that said, hey, no, we can get kind of funky with this, and it's okay. It's okay. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes it kind of really cool that the sky's the limit, because who the hell knows what's going to happen? We're going to have, God, I mean, who knows? And that's what's it's exciting as a Godzilla fan, because if you'd have told me when I was young that oh no, there's going to be one that evolves from different forms, and there's going to be one that's the whole like planet, and like what, that's stupid. And then it's like, no, it's pretty awesome. So I don't know, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's and this is, I've talked about this too. We are entering into an era of Godzilla. Tomoyuki Tanaka spent 40 years of his life trying to build up Godzilla as this icon of Japanese culture and Japanese pop culture. And there's not a lot of deviation from that push, right? You know, the only time that really happened with that was on Hedera, right? You know, whenever he wasn't really there for that production. And I don't think he was really there for Biolante, if I remember correctly. But that one still plays it pretty safe.
Yeah.
It also doesn't help that it was an Ultraman episode before it became a Godzilla movie, but that's a discussion for another topic. But following Tanaka, Shogo Toyama just kind of jumped in and was like playing, the cleanup crew with trying to fix the 98 shenanigans with the Millennium Era.
Oh, I guess I kind of forgot about 98. I could have showed that, but that's not Japanese. I could have guessed that as an original creation too. I forgot about that.
And so you do see the Millennium Era is a lot of is deriving a lot from kind of the Heisei era. I mean, 2000 was directed by a Heisei director. Okawara had done Destroya and Mechagodzilla, I believe. If I'm remembering correctly, I think so. I think I'm right. I think he did 3 Godzilla films, maybe 4. He might have done Mothra, Mechagodzilla, Destroya 2000. That sounds right. I might be right.
It's so fun. Like I'm just trying to think of like Destroya in 2000 is just such a weird to say that came from the same person.
Yeah, exactly. But it's
good.
That production team's still there.
Yeah.
And then Megaguirus, and something interesting about Megaguirus, this is my whole, like, I've watched too many Japanese films. 1998, Ring came out.
Mm-hmm.
1999, Ring 2 came out. 2000, Ring 0, or Ring 3, however you want to call it, came out. In 2000, by that point, Ju-On, another very popular J-horror franchise, and Tomie, another popular J-horror franchise, came out. J-horror was getting big by the year 2000. Megaguirus opens in a J-horror-esque fashion.
Mm-hmm.
The first 2 stages of Megaguirus are more of a J-horror creature monster than a kaiju film. Yeah. And then in GMK, Shutsuke Kaneko was a J-horror director before he became a kaiju director. He had worked on Japanese horror. In between the Gamera trilogy and GMK, he did a film called God's Left Hand, Devil's Right Hand, and Pyrokinesis, Japanese horror films. GMK is basically Godzilla as a J-horror film. Mm-hmm. If you look at the lighting and the camera direction and whatnot, and you look at some of the story beats, it's derived straight from the J-horror boom of the late 90s, early 2000s. So like those 2 films, once you put that context in there, it becomes a little more interesting, but they don't deviate a lot, you know. And then Tezuka went on to do Against and SOS, and those are kind of deviations off of the Megaguirus story. And then you've got like Ryuei Kitamura that's just trying to do
whatever
a Ryuei Kitamura film with Godzilla in it, and everybody hated that, right? Yeah. But it was still very much honoring the legacy of Godzilla, right?
Yeah.
Whereas once you get to Shin Godzilla, I don't remember his first name, Ichikawa-san, the new producer of these Godzilla films. He has taken a different approach from Toyama-san and Tanaka-san, and he's going about it in a way that's more, okay, Godzilla's like literally one of the most popular characters on the planet. Let's see what we can do to make him different. Let's see what we can do to evolve him, to bring him into the modern era and not keep him as a classic monster movie character. Let's bring him to the modern day. And that has been such a good approach to create, to not necessarily honor the legacy, but to prolong the franchise, to make it relevant. And I think that's just as important.
Yeah, and I think one comes with the other. I think to honor it truthfully, I mean, to keep it as relevant as possible. And you know what? I mean, unfortunately, like some of the Godzilla as he is portrayed in a lot of the show and Heisei stuff like that, that's not going to work forever, right? And it's not going to be for everybody. So now you can open eyes with its portrayal in -1, or how they do it in, you know, to an audience that that prefers more of the anime approach. And it's smart. It keeps it relevant, and as long as it's good and it's well done and it's like worthy of the name, like how it's portrayed in there, like it can only help it to do these different things. And overall, like I've been very happy with kind of the big swings that they've taken with Godzilla, over the last decade, and it's been cool. And like I said, I'm really excited to see how what else happens over the next decade, because there's going to be other really cool stuff on top of the eyeballs and the cash flow from the MonsterVerse. That they're just going to keep pumping out that stuff, and that's getting just zanier. But not necessarily anything like that's going to evolve Godzilla as an art form, but it's important, and nevertheless. So yeah, that's what's exciting about it. And we couldn't say that prior to Shin Godzilla.
That's
it was like I want a more Godzilla movie, but what in my head, it would just look like a Showa Arrow and with updated special effects, and now it's like, oh no, it can be something totally different and work and be really good and be like the best stuff that they've done. Like that's what's cool about it.
And as we're talking here about deviating, something that you've name dropped a couple titles. I kind of want to dive into your opinions and just kind of your relation to the kaiju genre as a whole, because you've name dropped Space Monster Wing Magui, War of the God Monsters, Monster Seafood War, and Death Kappa. So
all the parodies. I need Rego and Raiga and King Oga and all of them.
So what is your relationship with the extended genre, with those indie films, with the Gamera films and whatnot?
I love them all. There is no limitation. I love practical. I love suits. I love zany and wacky and campy and silly. But I also love, like, it could be obviously serious and focused and stuff like that. There's no like prerequisite. I love all kaiju film. But like I feel like I can enjoy Death Kappa and Monster X Strikes Back, the G8 Summit and all that stuff for what they are, or like Grahara, the dark and long-haired monster, like love that one. But I tend to like a little bit of the sillier stuff, but not necessarily like intended to be silly. Like I love, like, truthfully, like unironically, like I love the X from Outer Space. I love Gilala. I love the design of the creature of Gilala. I think it's awesome. I have a hard time saying Galalanium or whatever the element is. But I love some of that. Like I like, sometimes I look at it from a design, like what's appealing aesthetically to me, and I think that one is great and silly and fun to watch. One of my favorite kaiju movies is, and once again, unironically, I know it is you as a film person would be like, oh my gosh, where do you want to start on what's wrong with this from a filmmaking standpoint? But I love Yamato Takaru. I love Orochi. I mean, it's one of those things, like, how many movies can you have like wear magic and lightsabers and Megazords fighting Ghidorah on the moon? And Yasuka Sawaguchi, love her. Was my Heisei era crush. As Odo Tachibana, she was really good in that. I love that one. The music. I mean, Rain by Glay, greatest soundtrack of all time, greatest song in kaiju movie history. If Akubi be damned, it is Rain by Glay and the closing credits of Yamato Takaru. So I love that. I love, I mean, everything. And going on, are there some films I like more than others? Yeah. But like, I have been pretty vocal. I'm one of the few that I don't love the Mysterians, but like a lot of people love it. But you know what? I also love Latitude Zero because it's amazing.
So
like
fun.
I know. It's I like it all. But I'm totally a fan of parody if done well. I always think, like, Like Death Kappa, X Strikes Back, I mean, to some degree, Monster Seafood Wars. I like the fact that like you have to know the subject you're doing the parody of, and I think they do. You have to do it in a way that is like it's well done, but also like the jokes have to still land because it is a parody, and that's where I think that I guess not really Rego, but because I don't know what that's trying to be, but like Raiga and Raiga versus King Oga. That's the thing is like I don't love those because I don't think the jokes land. Like it's not the fact that they're I don't believe me. Like make fun of it. It is a very self-aware genre, and we are very self-aware fans. I think at least. But no, like they have to still be fun. If you're gonna be prepared to be great, that's why like I like some of the stuff with Death Kappa, and X Strikes Back is the funniest because I mean it's so dumb and it's so amazing. I mean, like the British ambassador doesn't even have like a British accent. I think it was amazing. Like that type of stuff is silly. Why is that charming in that film? But if it was in Mega Gears, I'd be like, oh, another reason I hate Mega Gears. I don't know. But yeah, I love those. Gamera. I mean, I'm like everybody else. I'm gonna be like, you know, spoiling this for nobody. Like the Heisei trilogy is like chef's kiss. Like it's amazing. I will say though, over time, like I remember when I watched Guardian for the first time, and obviously at the time, like it was I saw it and I got it at VHS at my mom flew me up with me. I was in middle school to the Chiller Theater in New Jersey in '95, and I got '96, I guess, and I got it a bootleg copy, and I watched it, and I was like just dumbstruck because it was like I only knew Gamera like Showa Gamera, right, as everybody else did, and this was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And obviously over time, seeing them, I wondered like, I always hypothesized that like if I get up to like the 30th or 50th watch, like does it lose a little bit of luster because it's so far removed from the original? Like how much of it is it just so well done, and how much of it is it's so well done and so different than the Showa era? Gamera, I love Gamera. I love the films. Gamera versus Barugan is actually my favorite Gamera film. Besides the Heisei stuff. And I also don't hate Ziggurat as much as everybody else does. But Gauss is my least favorite Gamera monster, and that pisses everybody off. I think it's just because he ate a dog in Heisei. But I like Gamera. It's cool. But to me, like my spirit kaiju is definitely Gilala, maybe Daigoro. I like Daigoro. And then on like the broader tokusatsu, like I love Ultra from a Showa standpoint. I haven't dived too deep anything like later than that. Ultra 7 and Ultra Q are probably my favorite two there. But I love Fireman. I love Spectre Man more than anything. Like as I got a Matt Frank original right here, Spectre Man. I love Spectre Man so much. Oh my gosh, Dr. Gory is my favorite just thing. Not even kaiju or film. Just he's my favorite thing. I love Dr. Gory. Oh man, those dubs are so good, by the way. But yeah, I there's nothing that's like off limits. Like I don't like I don't really like it if it's silly. No, bring it on, dude. And I like the indie stuff. Like there's just so much that I know I haven't seen yet. It's not a lack of like I don't want to. It's just I don't know about it, or I haven't seen it yet, right? But no, I love a little bit of everything.
You strike me as somebody who loves Tremors.
You know, it's funny. It's weird because this conversation got brought up the other day. So I was, no, it's gonna make you really mad. So because I've never seen Tremors. So my buddy Jake he loves Tremors, and he found out that in Japan, like this was probably like 6 months ago when they released them, or maybe longer than that. But he just found out like they had these gashapon, like the gacha balls of these Tremor toys, and they're like officially licensed and stuff in Japan. And so I was getting through one of my contacts that I buy a source from for Tokyo Toy Town. I was asking him if he could go grab some for us, and Jake's like, yeah, and he was just saying all this stuff about Tremor. I was like, dude, I've never seen it, and he just goes, I hate you. I might end the podcast now. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. Like I can see everything. I can see the VHS cover and the Kroger that I was going to as a kid to go whatever. I can see all of it, freaking ass blasters and all that stuff. But I've actually never seen Tremors. So I probably would like it.
would love the first Tremors.
Yeah.
The first Tremors is like it's a blend of Jaws with like a 50s giant monster B movie blended with an 80s slasher. It's amazing.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason. It's not like, oh, here's another funny one. This is why YHS on Monster Island is great. Even us that like are super like into the genre and stuff like that, there's things that slip through the cracks, right? Like maybe there's no interest, maybe you're in a bad mood and like, that's not for me. I don't want to do it. One of the films that I had not seen until about 2 years ago, which was mind-boggling to Jake. Jake was like, I can't believe I'm talking to you anymore. But it was, I had never seen, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like the target market for all of the viral marketing. I'd never seen Cloverfield. And he was like, why? Like, why? I'm like, like, I know it's a monster movie, but like, it just like, I don't know. He's like, is it because it's America? I'm like, no. I'm just like, it just hasn't interested me. And he's like, you're the dumbest person in the world. I'm like, okay. So I go, hey, you've never seen Yamato Takaru. So I'm like, let's do a switch. So we did one where we watched each of them. And I watched that. And then the other one that he was like, he hated me that I never had seen was The Host. Which is a great film. Oh my gosh, so good. But I was like, I'm never watching that ever again, because at the time of having a young daughter and a kid's like, I don't want that, dying kids and stuff, all that, at least like on screen. And I was like, but well done movie. So really good. But it was fun. I was like, yeah, Cloverfield, I'm good, man. I'm good. I watched it. I was like, hey, mine had lightsabers and like fights on the moon. Come on now. But no, it was, but that was the one, like, even like I said, like, I love this stuff. It's my favorite genre, but even I didn't watch literally one of the most known kaiju films from our country ever. And it's like, good. I'm just going to watch it. I'd rather watch Inframan, because that's a thing. So yeah, but I love the whole genre, man. I really do. And I'm excited. Like, one thing that I haven't explored just because of accessibility, but like, I don't get a chance to go to the G-Fest film festivals and like the fan films and things and people doing shorts and stuff like that. I know that there's a huge plethora of young and maybe not even young, old filmmakers doing really cool stuff and original stuff. I think that's what's neat. That's what draws me to it, is like the different approaches to a genre like this. I remember a couple years ago, there was like the Bunraku puppet, Mothra, Godzilla, whatever one that they did, and I think it was in Osaka, about the National Bunraku Theater. And I can't remember, but anyway, that one was out there. So good, so good. And there's a lot of really other cool stuff like that I could just like. It's just a matter of like knowing about it, the awareness of it, and and like I said, I'm living this stuff every day, and there's still stuff that slips through the cracks, and that's what's cool about it. There's that much content.
Right. Yeah, that's something, as every other week or so, Rex and I watch a movie. Granted, I've probably seen the movie beforehand.
Yeah.
But like diving into that stuff, one thing that I've really loved is this year we have covered a ton of Daiei films.
That's cool.
And for each episode, I have found my way into learning another section of Daiei.
Yeah.
Daiei is the one that basically created the idea of the exclusive talent. Mm-hmm. They were the ones that like made it so like Toho had their actors, Daiei had their actors. And it was called the 5-company agreement. You couldn't deviate from that unless you paid money and went through difficult means to get an actor from Toho to appear in your Daiei film. I learned that the reason that the X from Outer Space and Gappa exists is also the same reason Gamma versus Gauss exists. Is Daiei went to the Japanese diets and said, hey, we could use funding and you could make money. Mm-hmm. And we can export the stuff to a global scale. And then they ripped off the Japanese government by billions of yen and imploded the film industry.
Which is what one does. Yes.
Gamera
To
versus
be
Gauss.
1967 again, right?
And like Dai literally bribed the Japanese government for them to exist. They weren't supposed to exist, but they bribed and found a way through. And it's been so interesting to kind of like learn about all this different stuff.
Yeah, like the like some of like the propaganda claims or like why the film. It does add an extra element to it when you factor in like the history of everything going on geopolitically, and the fact that some of these films may or may not have deeper connections into that. I think it's really cool. But like the Dai stuff is fascinating. I mean, I think we just as kaiju fans sometimes just lump it in. Oh, it's Gamera, it's Daimajin, it's Well God. Like, okay, great, but it's like there's a lot more there. That
Right.
like I said, I'm ignorant to a lot of it, but I just I think that's so cool that like they have those kind of tentacles out into the larger Japanese history than just kaiju film.
So I doubt you've seen this film. Have you seen the movie Legend of the Eight Samurai?
I have not. No.
So it's directed by Kenji Fukasaku, same director as Battle Royale, Green Slime, Message from Space. I'm trying to think. I think those are the ones you might have heard of.
Yeah, Battle Royale for sure.
It's weird. Have you seen the Green Slime?
I have not. No.
It's a 1960s Toei movie. That it's a co-production with Warner Brothers. And it's about this green slime that turns into aliens that were played by Japanese school children.
Love that. That's great. Child labor laws.
And they have to fight them. It's if you like the X from Outer Space, you will love the Green Slime.
Good.
It's also got a banger soundtrack.
Oh, nice. Which also the X from Outer Space does as well. Yes. That sounds great. That sounds amazing.
That one you would like, and if you like Orochi, you should check out Legend of the Eight Samurai. It's got Sonny Chiba in it.
Oh, cool.
It's got oh my god, I know his name. He's the most popular Japanese actor now. Oh my god, why am I blanking? He's in Avengers Endgame. He's in The Wolverine. He's in Ring. He's in Shogun. Oh my god, I'm blanking. I should know his name like the back of my hand. Oh my god. Give me a second.
I don't know any popular Japanese actors after Toshiro Mifune. So that's only like 60 years ago.
Hiroyuki Sanada.
Okay.
He's he's also in all the John Wick movies. That's like got a Japanese actor.
Oh, I don't like John Wick movies because they start about killing a dog. I was like, I'm out. I'm tapping out. That's awesome. Yeah, Orochi's great. I like Birth of Japan. I mean, I like obviously the was it 59? When was that? When was the Birth of Japan?
I think so. 59, 58.
Great. But like I said, I mean the Yamada Takeru has Kawakiri has glitter. I mean, so much glitter. But it's amazing. But so Legend of the Eight Samurai, that sounds great. I'm always up for something that even has remote, remind somebody of Orochi, because not much can.
It's like this. Some people have said it's like the Japanese Star Wars movie.
Okay.
It's about 8 samurai that have to save a princess from an evil empire.
Okay.
There's a giant centipede in it. There is yokai. I think there's a couple yokai. There's sword fights. There's martial arts. There's magic.
Isn't it Magic Serpent that also that they say has like the ties to Star Wars as well? Like there was it Magic Serpent? Which was that there was a oh man, I think it was Magic. I don't know. But that potentially like Lucas stole some of the ideas.
Hidden Fortress. It's from the Hidden Fortress.
Hidden Fortress.
Yes.
Not Magic Serpent's a freaking Magic Serpent's a freaking with the frog and the dragon. Yes. Hidden Fortress. I love Hidden Fortress. Minoru Chiaki man's in that one. I love Hidden Fortress. I watched that the other day, actually, not literally like less than a month ago. I did an Ikaru Hidden Fortress Kurosawa night.
I
But,
just got Ikaru.
It's my favorite movie of all time.
Just yesterday.
It's the greatest movie
literally
ever
just
made.
got it.
I really do think. I honestly I do think it might be the greatest movie ever made. I'm not hyperbole. It is one of those things that I think when you watch the film, it's like, this means something. This is a way, like, you can live your life based on this. And I mean, obviously Shimura's a great actor. Like, I mean, he just like delivers it and has a great cast with him, but it's really good. I think it might be the best movie ever made.
So I should watch it this week.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great. I mean, what I think I would do is with Ikaru, and I would watch it in one like fell swoop, because I know like a lot of people like start their movies like 3 a.m. and when you're podcasting, right? And and I would just like one of those is like, don't plan on doing necessarily anything after it or whatever. Like it's just one that'll like, I find it overly positive and it's great, but it's one of those movies that I think just like it deserves like time to let it soak in and figure it out. And I think it stays with you for a long time. The message and stuff. And I don't know. I think it's a brilliant piece of cinema. I really, really, really do. And I just feel it feels different than almost any other film that I've ever seen. And I think it's by far my favorite. Yeah, I think it might be my favorite Kurosawa film, but I love it. I mean, it's so different than the other. It's hard to like compare some of them. Like, how do you compare that with like, Yojimbo or whatever? Like, you can't, but it's wonderful. And I'm curious, like, me, an untrained eye, like I don't shoot movies. I don't know anything like that. Whatever. I'm curious, because to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so well done, as well as like the actual story and the actual message. I'm curious your thoughts on that piece when you watch it, like, because it is, I don't know, to me, it's visually stunning. To not be like a giant, dramatic fantasy landscape. Obviously it's not, but
right.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Interesting. Yeah. So for me, my Kurosawa watches, I've seen Seven Samurai, Rashomon, Hidden Fortress, Throne of Blood. I really like Throne of Blood.
I like Throne of Blood too. Yep, a lot.
I've seen. I have one more title, but I'm trying to think if there's. I don't think I've seen Yojimbo. That's the other one I've seen. Yeah. I love Yojimbo. That's my favorite Kurosawa film.
It's great.
I just love how fun it is. It's such a fun movie.
Yeah, I think it's a cool like concept, how from the different points of view and everything. Have you seen from a Kurosawa thing? It's funny. My first Kurosawa film, not Seven Samurai, that doesn't count. I love Seven Samurai, but I'm just like, I think that's everybody's first Kurosawa film. It was actually, no joke, I had a friend in high school that was a big film buff, and he loved Kurosawa, and that was like his thing, man. Like, I literally, like, in high school, this kid knew more about Kurosawa than anybody. And the first film that we watched together was Dreams. So with all the little vignettes and everything, it's actually, I love Dreams. I think it's great, but like it was not, you're usually most people's first Kurosawa film. So to go like for like very like not tied together with a necessarily one story or anything like these sweeping, beautiful period pieces or anything like that. I actually think it helped me because it wasn't like I went from, Hidden Fortress to Seven Samurai to Blood, like all this type of stuff. Like it was very, 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 very different. And it was really cool. That's a cool one to watch too.
I own that one.
Yeah.
That one I wanted to watch, but a friend of mine was like, no, don't watch anything post 1969 Kurosawa. Watch that stuff first and then go watch that. That one I've wanted to watch. That one's interested me. And then I have seen clips, and I know the moment that I watch this movie, I'm gonna fall in love is Kagemusha. That movie looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's is that one of the one that's on? It's on Max now, right? Like they
I think so.
I think it's so. I know they obviously love the Criterion stuff there, with Janice and everything. But yeah, great. I mean, they're all good. I mean, like I think they're all different. They're all really good films. I would be the worst film critic in the world. It would be like, is it good? Yeah. Is it better than everything's better than Megaguirus? That's my rating. Is it? I love everything other than Mega Garrus and War of the God Monsters. Every film out there is great, wonderful. I mean, I literally would be the worst. I'm good. Like, I have something that I really like, and then the lowest thing is like, oh, I like it. It's fine. You know, it's fine.
Mhm,
So it's all escapism, right? But yeah, I like most of the Kurosawa stuff. You know, shocker, right? Like, surprise, surprise. Such a controversial opinion. Kurosawa was good. But Ikaru, he stands out beyond any of those.
Okay.
But Seven Samurai, I mean, like I feel some ways like film began after Seven Samurai. I mean, it was so good. But yeah, I love all the stuff. And I like a lot of his cast of characters are great. I mean, I mean, obviously Mifune is the guy that gets all the love, but I mean, I really do think Minoru Chiaki is a stud, man. I think he was a great character. And I know obviously like I will go like down in flames on this. Like, I think his character, Koji Kobayashi in Godzilla Raids Again, is one of the most underrated characters in the Godzilla franchise. I really do. I think Chiaki, you know, him and Koizumi have great chemistry together, but I think Chiaki steals the show. And I think he's a great actor, and I think he is really good in that film. Even though Godzilla Raids Again, you know, is not the strongest offering in my opinion. You know, I describe it like if you had to rate 1 to 10 on the scale, like Godzilla Raids Again is like it's 5. It's like the neutral point. Like, it's neither good nor bad to me. It is just Godzilla Raids Again. So things are either better than that or lower than that. So like I said, it has like almost no value whatsoever, but it's not negative value. It's just Godzilla Raids Again. And so I do think Chiaki, those performance and that is it stands ahead of the movie and is transcends the actual film itself. So I don't know, but anyway, he's a Kurosawa guy. He's in every Kurosawa film. He was really good at Hidden Fortress.
Interesting. Yeah, I have Senjuro. I need to watch Senjuro. I have Kagemusha. I have Dreams, and I now have Ikaru.
Yeah.
I think
Ikaru, dude. First.
I think Ikaru is going to be my next one. You've kind of sold me it.
I mean, honestly, like and it's one of those, like, you know how like if you have like favorite films and like you want to tell your friends is like, I really want them to like it too. I really want them to see what I see. Ikaru don't care. To me, it's like I watch it. It's like it's kind of like what I think it's really good at is like it makes it feel like you're the only person watching the story, and it's talking to you, and it is this thing that exists that's getting you to learn a valuable life lesson and mentality and way of thinking, and it's only speaking to you. And I think that is like beyond powerful, and it's like a really hard thing to do as a creator of any content, whether it's writing or whether it's film or whatever it might be. And so I think that's why Ikaru, I think, really stands out to me. Is it just this is different, and it's a really personal connection with it. And I don't know, I just think it's a beautiful film.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. That one I'll have to watch. See, it's funny because there's
no kaiju in it though. There's no kaiju in it.
Oh no! Oh no! Not no kaiju.
It would not make sense on that
one. See, it's funny because like as I continue to watch obviously more Japanese cinema, my top 10 movies of all time, I think most of them now are Japanese.
Yeah.
I continue to watch stuff and it's like, oh, I love like Yojimbo's in there. I think -1 is.
You've only seen it a couple of times, though. You haven't seen it enough.
Just a couple, you know.
You should really see it in the theater to get the full experience.
Yeah. IMAX. Yeah. 4D. ScreenX. Watching ScreenX. But like then there's also films like Tetsuo the Iron Man. It's from 1989. It was shot on 16 millimeter, so it looks like an episode of Ultra Q. That's how it's like a full length movie from Ultra Q if it was directed by David Lynch.
Awesome. It's old. I
really like it. There's a Safubi out there. I'd love to get it. I don't know how I would.
Yeah.
But that is a wild film. That was the first time that I sat down watched the movie, and after the movie, I remember because my lights, I had my lights off for some reason, and the film finished, and like I went and I got a bottle of water, and I came back and I sat down in my chair, and like I just sat there as like the DVD menu was on, and I was just like, I sat there in silence for probably 10 minutes because I needed time to like contemplate what I had just witnessed.
Yeah.
Which a film had never done that to me before, and I don't
That's
know
a
if
cool
that's,
feeling, man.
It's really like, it's like when you have moments where art moves you to like stop everything you're doing.
Yeah.
That speaks. Another film that did that to me was The Fablemans, but that's because Steven Spielberg is like my idol and everything I cherish.
Yeah, that's probably more stuff going into that than just that single film. But yeah, but that's cool. But that's what art can do, you know, and that's where, you know, going back to our initial conversation when we had, like, that's what, you know, it might be a toy that's a piece of art. It might be a film. It might be a song. It might be a novel. It might be a whatever. It doesn't matter. It can move you and make you think ways and feel things that you don't get to that place in any other way other than through that medium, through that through that whatever that piece of art is. So that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would, you know, I hope that you have 7 million more of those, you know, as you watch good media. I probably wouldn't watch Mega Gears ever again. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, I like that. That it makes it go full circle.
Yeah.
I love full circle stories. I don't want to. We're getting a little late here.
Okay.
I want to go for about 3 more minutes.
Okay.
Just to beat one of the recordings. One of the things with these shows is I like to beat recordings. I
love it. With 3 more minutes, I can do that.
Danny and I will have number 1 no matter what. We went 7.5 hours once with.
That's insane.
With -1.
Did y'all like read the entire script in like 7 languages?
We wrote the whole movie down.
Yeah.
We talked about the influences, the references, the cultural significance. We just went like that.
Yeah.
That might be the pinnacle -1 live stream.
In this scene, the extra in the back is wearing a shirt that is probably made by this company. And let me tell you about the history of that company. That company started in 1922. I could see that though, but that doesn't surprise me. I mean, if you'd have told me, I would have said like, yeah, probably Danny. Probably Danny. Like, yeah, I mean,
him and I, if we get in a conversation, you know, we're like,
he's a great dude. I love Danny.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I met Danny just like, you know, a G-Fast right for the first time, but he helped us out on White Chest and Monster Island way back when we first started. We did a little thing we called the Showdown Spectacular, and where we would I basically created like a tournament of, you know, monster versus monster, and then we would reach out to people in the kaiju fandom that were creators, right? And you know, for whatever reason, like we would say, hey, you get this matchup, like who do you think would win? And we would advance them on in the tournament, right? And Danny was one of our guys. I remember I made him do Baragon versus Barugon. But we had a lot of really good people help us out there, like Kyle Yown and David Dobko and Christine, a lot of the Collect All Monsters crew, and we had, you know, Tom Whalen. He helped us out, Tom Whalen, and Lisa Nafziger, and a lot of really cool artists and stuff. It was so fun to hear everybody's take on everything. And it was cool because Danny's was so funny. He was hilarious and just, you know, cracking everybody up with his. I believe he had Barugon beating Baragon. But my favorite still was like Tom Whalen did. I think we gave him Mechanicog against Zigra because, you know, why wouldn't you? And Tom Whalen sitting there, I'm like, okay, this is one of the best artists that we know. Like, he's amazing, right? And he's just sitting there and he's like, so this is Mechanicog versus Zigra. And he's like doing his sketches on it. I'm like, oh, it's amazing. But anyway, I first reached out to Danny to ask him to help us out there because I loved his all the podcasts that he's on and what he does with the novelization project and all that good stuff. And he's just a nice dude. And but it's been good. I've been and now we've bonded over weird, funny collectibles and stuff. And so he's one of the good guys.
He's really good.
Yeah.
You talked about your podcast, so I have to do this because I appreciate you coming on here. 2.5 hours. This conversation flew by, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Anytime, man. Anytime. You know how to get a hold of me. I'm busy, but not that busy. But yeah, if anybody wants to check it out, like we're on YouTube or any, your major podcast platforms, YHS on Monster Island, or a lot of times it would be shortened to just on Monster Island because, YHS doesn't mean a whole lot outside of the YHS community. Now, the YHS community is huge and it's big, but Godzilla is a very, 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 very small part of that. So initially we're like, hey, they have a zillion listeners and followers and whatever, like we'll just do an offshoot. And there just wasn't that much overlap, which wasn't shocking, but we didn't know. And so like you'll see on Monster Island for a lot of this stuff, but we record every other week, usually when Jake's around and not literally like jet setting across. He's like, on set at the latest Ghostbusters, interviewing people on the red carpet. He's panelist at Comic-Con. Like he's just crazy, man. And then we do that. And then Toku Toy Town. I mean, I'm pretty active on Instagram, but obviously tokutoytown.com for all that good stuff. And kaijugo.com for Kaiju GO. And if you're ever in the area, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, check us out. It's every August. And this year I think we're going to make it a little bit of a tradition. Last year on January 1st, we did a live stream, which was so cool. A lot of people joined and chatted and stuff to like release the details of Kaiju GO. So like we unveiled where it was, when it was, the movies, the guests and all that stuff, basically everything, but like the vendors and maybe some other special stuff. But I think we're going to do it again this year. We already got like a lot of this stuff kind of worked out and really excited about the special guest. If we can get that locked and loaded and, we don't announce anything until flights are booked and hotels are booked and stuff, but feel really good there. Still working on the movies. I actually have a couple that we're kind of debating on. But yeah, so I'm really, really, really pumped about that. So kaijugo.com and follow us on Instagram as well with Kaiju GO. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jay. And please check out all of those. Like I said at the beginning, he does great work. He's very awesome. Very genuine.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
Unless it's Megaguirus.
Unless it's Megaguirus. Yeah, or War of the God Monsters. Actually, if War of the God Monsters, if we could go back in time and just like the equivalent of like just photoshopping Megaguirus into War of the God Monsters, whatever that would be, then it would be the worst movie of all time.
It's a recipe for disaster.
I know. They'd call Megaguirus a dinosaur too, in that because everything's a dinosaur, even the giant birds. Oh my gosh, that was. I made Jake do a Yongari, not reptilian. I know you have your ties to reptilian, but Yongari, War of the God Monsters Korean double feature. I wore my Korean baseball jersey. It was amazing. It was a great night. I still refer to him today as the poet of Pyeongtaek. Yes, War of the God Monsters. Don't watch that, guys. Please. If you take anything from this conversation today, do not watch War of the God Monsters, but go buy it and make sure that SRS gets all that good money.
Real quick.
Yeah.
You've thrown out so many titles. Top 5 film recommendations for anybody. Go.
In Kaiju or just in general?
In general.
Ikaru, number 1. I do think that's my favorite one. I know it's hard to say because like I don't. A lot of my favorite ones are films that like most people would know. Okay. So Ikaru. If you haven't seen the old, and I'm not a horror thriller guy, but this one is, it has Peter Lorre. It's like 1930, 1940. M. If anybody ever seen M, the great Fritz Lang movie. It's amazing. I would go watch M. I'm trying to think of some other good ones that would be kind of off the beaten path. For anybody that likes, I mentioned it a couple of times tonight, but anybody that wants wacky and stupid and dumb, go to you can't do better than the Shaw Brothers and Hong Kong cinema. So go check out Super Inframan. That's another one that I love because it is wacky and goofy and silly. Another one, I'm trying to think that would be really good. Oh, this isn't a movie, but it's a show. I just watched this and I had no expectations. I thought it was like a fan series, but it's actually legitimate. And just because I was ignorant and didn't research it. I really dig Neo Ultra Q. I love Ultra Q is one of my favorite. Love it so much. But Neo Ultra Q, I was like no expectations, and some of those episodes are really good. Like Laundry Day with Kaiju Brethren. Oh my god, like amazing. And there's some really, really, really good ones in there, and I really think that's an underrated series, or one that doesn't get a ton of love. Another good, what's a good funky weird movie that we haven't seen in a while? Maybe my favorite movie of all time besides Ikaru is. Can I throw in a documentary?
Yeah, go for it.
Jodorowsky's Dune.
Okay.
So it is, and I don't know if you've seen it, but it's basically like Jodorowsky, the director, was going to like originally make the original Dune to be, and like all the stuff he had lined up from like Orson Welles and Mick Jagger and everybody was lined up and ready to do it, and Giger was going to do all the design. It was amazing, and he's interviewed in it. Obviously, it's before he passed away and stuff, but it's amazing. And then in one of the books it talks about in Jodorowsky's Dune, that like the storyboards, for lack of a better term, there's only like 4 or 5 of these books ever. One of them I saw went in an auction not too long ago for like $500,000 or something. But it's really cool. Jodorowsky's Dune, I love that one. It's one of my favorite. I say more recent. It's probably like 15 years old now. But it's it's of this era at least. But I'm trying to think my other like favorite movies. At any time I could say like, oh, that was my favorite movie of all time, like Ikaru, Jodorowsky's Dune, Kenneth Branagh's Henry V. Anybody? I love Henry V. I don't know. Like those would probably be some of my like more off the beaten path ones, but by no means are they super wacky, crazy, insane. And Ikaru is like Criterion Collection, right? So that would be wacky. And then of course go rewatch Gilala, go rewatch Death Kappa, Pulgasari, Space Amoeba, all the good ones that need your love. It doesn't have to be Godzilla or Gamera, like all that stuff's great. I just rewatched Daimajin the other day, all 3 in a row, man. I was like, I love that. I love the first one. The second one is exactly the first one again, but not as good. And here's a controversial opinion. I don't actually care that much for Wrath of Daimajin, and I know a lot of people love the third one the best.
I don't
it's
like
not,
the third one.
I don't get the like. I always hear everybody describe it as like Stand By Me meets Daimajin. And I was like, no, doesn't really do it for me. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. I'd definitely watch it. But the first one is still my favorite on that one.
You keep saying that you have like these like wild opinions, but it's like I agree.
Well, maybe the people that I engage with a lot, they're the ones with the wild opinions, and I'm actually the one with crazy. No, but it's good. That's what's fun about film is like, you can. I don't know if all art is subjective, but like for the most part, like it's yeah. I think it's fun to talk about that because like you can love their opinions on everything else, but you're like, dude, no. How do you not love Buckaroo Banzai? It's the greatest movie ever made. I say that because I'm looking at my movie. I love it is.
Wait, you have a Buckaroo Banzai poster?
Yeah, an original little one sheet. Oh yeah. Buckaroo's my favorite. So not to go to too tangent here because we didn't talk about this pre YHS on Monster Island Life. So I had a little bit of run of luck on the writing front, on the author front, and I had a series of science fiction novels that do still pretty well, but did really well. I'm a member of SFWA and stuff like that, Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America. I've been across the world talking about the books and everything. Did Worldcon in Dublin and stuff about the stuff. Anyway, the main character, like I was like, if I had to create a main character, and this is literally my thinking before I wrote Word 1 in my first book of the quadrology. There's 4 of them. I was like, I want to take my 2 favorite characters and put them together and see what happens. And I was like, I'm going to take Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China and Buckaroo Banzai. And if I put them together, what do I get? And then I got The Adventures of Duke LaGrange, which turned out to be a pretty good little thing for me. And actually, it does kind of tie in because before Dr. Pepper, I actually had YHS do some stuff for the Duke LaGrange series for me. So that actually was the first time I met him before Dr. Pepper even. So, hey, maybe without writing those, maybe without Buckaroo Banzai, none of this would ever happen.
Okay, so Buckaroo Banzai is in my top 10 films. of
Oh,
all
good.
time.
Me too. Me too.
I
Me too.
love.
100%.
It's like top 5 actually.
Yeah,
I cannot stop praising
it's a great
the
movie.
Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
And I talk about like biggest, the saddest moment in film is when the end credits roll and it's like, and coming up next, Buckaroo Banzai against the World Crime League. I'm like, oh my gosh, why isn't that movie ever made? Yeah.
So you can.
Oh yeah. No matter where you go, there you are. Yeah.
Yeah. I wear this every day. I have this bracelet that I had made because that line is like peak screenwriting, peak writing, like
it is
best
literally
line of all time.
It's my favorite quote in all the film. I really do think it is. And I mean, I remember like even like I would present at Real Work and like you do these presentations and stuff like that. And, you know, obviously there's always time to do like one was like your business, like your managerial practices and stuff. And like, I was like, describe myself to my whole team that I was managing and this new team that was being brought on. And I put like my motto literally was no matter where you go, there you are. That was it. So no. Buckaroo's important. Yeah, I got my Buckaroo one next to my Godzilla on Monster Island, you know, the Gigan release movie poster, a little Road Warrior, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. I used to collect like vintage or old movie posters. I've unfortunately had to cut it in about half. I still have them, but I need room for Fubi, you know. And those shelves, those display cases are big. But I'll never get rid of the Buckaroo Banzai poster.
I have an original Inframan poster.
Oh, that's amazing. Well,
yeah.
Hey, we always do a top 10 list, a wish list, and it's like of our top toys that we want, regardless of price or scarcity or anything like that. And you know, like I'll have like a Neo Player one on there that's like $3,000. I'm not getting that. But one that's always been on my list and I just can't get is Unbox Industries, which is a great independent toy maker. They did an Inframan on a couple different colorways about 4 or 5 years ago, and I just can't get that sucker. Like it's nowhere. It's in nowhere. Nobody wants to give theirs up, and it wasn't an expensive one. It was like $80. But like it's not a matter of like the cost. I actually can't find it. And I have a lot of feelers out there for like indie toys. In fact, one of my best friends knows the guy who runs Unbox Industries, and like they know each other. And he's like, we don't have any. Like because I don't have one like accidentally locked away in the warehouse somewhere. Like they are not there anymore. So that Inframan is. I'm mad at Inframan right now. I can't find that thing. It's been like a 3-year search. But the movie poster's cool. I love the artwork. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Yeah. I might go watch that tonight. I might go watch it.
Well, you mentioned Buckaroo Banzai. So that's, you know, the whole time we were talking, I was like, this guy probably has an appreciation for Buckaroo Banzai. But I was like, I'm not going to mention it. I can't always bring up Buckaroo Banzai. Like,
yeah,
there's a video essay out there on YouTube, and it's like Buckaroo Banzai is the perfect superhero movie. And it's like the summary of it is like the film doesn't explain to you why he's so cool. It just shows you why he's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and I also want a band called the Hong Kong Cavaliers. I mean, that's just amazing. I mean, at some point, you know, the famous theme at the end, you know, when they're walking in the quarry or whatever, that, you know, that used to be my ringtone. Like it was, yeah. And it was my, for the longest time, it was my alarm. So my wife would wake up to that every morning. Yes. Which is better than any Godzilla. That'll jar a spouse that does not like Godzilla in the morning. But Buckaroo. Yeah, that's one that will always, Buckaroo and Jack Burton will always just be near and dear to my heart. I love those guys.
I have the Buckaroo. So I have on my Spotify, I have a movie playlist of like music that was used in films. And the top track is the Buckaroo Banzai ending theme.
It's like it's perfect.
It's so perfect. Good.
It's perfect. I mean, how can you not be happy and inspired and just feel like good about humanity and like where we're going as a civilization? Listen to that movie. It is like, yes, it is just amazing. It's perfect. It's perfect. It would be my walk-up music in baseball, man. It would be like everything. It would just and I would actually wish I could just walk around like life with that just playing everywhere I go.
Playing.
I want to get like a speaker surgically implanted in me that's just always playing the Buckaroo Banzai one. It'd be amazing.
I actually
great costuming too in that movie.
Oh, so at one point, okay, so in high school, when I would walk home, the last 2 years of high school, I had to walk home a lot. That would be one of the first songs I would play as I start my walk home. And at one point, I wanted to, this is really stupid, but I wanted to wear the Buckaroo Banzai outfit to like prom. I didn't. I ended up not going that route, but like I was like, I'm gonna rock this 80s outfit.
You'd have to get your date to wear the Penny Purdy outfit as well. I mean, it's so good. I mean, and all your friends have to walk up, everything like 2 by 2. I don't know. The strut is awesome. I will say, unfortunately, the comics and stuff that have come around, it weren't as good. I'm not a comic person, so maybe it's just the medium is not for me. But I didn't love them as much. But yeah, I mean, if there could ever have been a sequel to any movie,
it should have been that.
I want to know. I want to know about this World Crime League. I know they talk about it in the novelization, and there's some other ones in there, which are great. But yeah, it's one of the few novelizations of a movie that I've read.
Well, and another thing about Buckaroo Banzai, we're going on a tangent. We're just going to have to now.
This is our other podcast, Buckaroo Banzai. We're the Hong Kong Cavaliers. Yes. Takaroo Banzai. Yeah.
At G Fest, we're gonna have a speaker. We're gonna
we'll both be cosplaying Buckaroo Banzai at G Fest. What movie are you from? Oh,
yeah. One thing I love about that film is how unironically it is a stacked cast.
Oh my gosh, Lithgow and Lloyd and obviously Peter Weller and it's crazy. It's so good. Oh, and Goldblum.
yeah.
Can't forget New Jersey, man.
That's New Jersey. Yeah, exactly. It's like you cannot get another movie where Peter Weller plays a dude named Buckaroo Banzai, and he has a partner. One of his friends is named New Jersey and is played by Jeff Goldblum.
In a like a Howdy Doody style, like Gene Autry, TV cowboy thing. Oh, it doesn't make any sense, and I think that's why I like it in the best way possible. Like it doesn't linger on the fact that what he's wearing.
No,
that's just what it is.
There's a scene where they walk into Buckaroo's laboratory, and somebody points out, he's like, "Why is there a watermelon?"
Watermelon, yes, the baby, yes, the watermelon.
And they're like, "I'll tell you later."
Yeah.
And then they just move on. They're like. Yeah. It's here. It powers this lab somehow, and you're just gonna have to embrace it.
And that's like that summarizes the entire movie and why it's perfect, because it can do that. I mean, no other movie you don't need to explain the watermelon. The watermelon just is like that. The watermelon just is, and oh gosh, that movie's so good. I'm gonna watch that too next to Inframan. Buckaroo Banzai meet Super Inframan. That's gonna be the next movie. That's a crossover that we all need.
It would make Hong Kong Cavaliers Inframan.
There you go. I mean,
it's perfect. Where's that comic book crossover?
Done. Yes, that would be freaking amazing.
I feel like they would work perfectly too, because they're like, you just go with whatever they do. Like,
they explanation don't need them. No, I think it would be, it'd be the one thing where Inframan, I was like, hey man, like, you aren't the weirdest thing in this, like good.
There's a rock and roll, multi-dimensional traveler, brain surgeon, nuclear scientist here.
Ninja, yeah, no. Oh man, what a great movie! Oh, Buckaroo Banzai, so life-defining movie.
Oh God, there was a movie. What was it? That Peter Weller got asked to do. It was right after Buckaroo Banzai. Oh my God, what was it? Give me a second. I know it. He was asked to do a film, and it turned out to be an awful movie. And it was a miracle because he said no to it. and he did RoboCop instead.
Which turned out
movie
okay
was it?
for him.
Just okay.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
it didn't, only make his career.
Yeah, I know, right?
What film was it? It's an 80s film, obviously. It's from like 86. What is it? Oh God. Was it a film that I feel like Rex and I talked about it on the show recently, where we were like, yeah, this almost happened. Oh, he was supposed to be in King Kong Lives.
Oh, no way.
Peter Weller was going to play the villain in King Kong Lives right after he had done Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, wow.
And he said no to it. And then he went on and did RoboCop. Wow. So it would have been Buckaroo Banzai to King Kong Lives, but it went from Buckaroo to RoboCop. So I don't think he did a film.
King Kong Lives has one of my favorite scenes, is the scene with the frog. It's just the point of view from the frog. That's when I'm like, it's the frog scene. Yes, that would, good move, Peter. Good move. That one worked out for you.
Yeah, it looks like after Buckaroo, he did a drama called Firstborn, and then a drama called The Killing Affair, and then RoboCop. So, but Buckaroo was his 5th film he had ever done, and probably
he nailed it.
That was perfect.
I mean, he's just, yes, the cat. I mean, everything about the film is great. Like, I mean, really, like, there are no weaknesses in that film other than there's not more of them. Mm-hmm. It literally, like, I can watch that film a million times. Like, it's amazing.
And that's what I love about it is it's like Ghostbusters. Where it's like, and it just so happens they both came out in the same year, right?
Yeah, everything came out there.
84 was just the best year of cinema.
Yeah.
Like Ghostbusters and Buckaroo Banzai, those 2 films are the perfect example of lightning in a bottle. Yeah. Like you could not have had a better crew, cast, story, everything.
It all worked. And it's funny because it's one of those times, like, it is of a certain time, but when you watch it, it holds up. And it's not something that where you're just like, oh, like this, but this doesn't, no, it still does. And Buckaroo Banzai, like, truly, like, it is one of, like, the craziest thing, because it's like so much of it that's good about it, you can't explain. Like, you can't be like, oh, the amazing shot here, or it does. It's all of it works together. Mm-hmm. And it's just beautiful. I'm just so glad that movie exists, and that, it's still inspiring people to this day, and it should, because it's the greatest film ever made.
It really is. I just, it's so good. And, it's weird because it's kind of a cult film to a certain extent.
For sure. Oh, 100%.
It's not Gremlins. It's not Ghostbusters.
No.
But yet, like, if you go, Kevin Smith, like a couple years ago, was like really pushing the Buckaroo Banzai gospel. Mm-hmm. And he was like, if you look at the people who are aware of this film and who like it, they will all, like, in unison say it's one of the greatest films of all time. Yeah. Like, it's either you don't know it exists or it's one of the greatest.
There's no in between. There's no like, oh yeah, I saw that, it's fine. It's one that I'm still shocked to this day that we haven't seen, like, a company like Super 7 or Mondo do a small run of a couple characters. Like, I feel like it's ripe for, like, Super 7 reaction series or something like that to do. Something that's like a light lift. It's not going to break the bank, but if they only sell a couple, great. But it is, I'm not asking like X Plus or Hot Toys or something to do that, but like, I feel like there's enough characters there that are wow. I mean, who doesn't want a Jeff Goldblum figure? Now it could be one of those licenses that's so hard to get because of the likeness rights, because they are such big names, right? Like, because it is hard. I mean, you'd be getting not only for the rights to film, but you'd have to get the likeness for Goldblum and Lithgow and Weller and all those, and that's not easy. But still, like, at least some of the aliens.
Right. Yeah, I want to own John Big Booty. I really do.
Big booty.
Big today. Yes, yes.
Booty.
And that's another thing. It's like the names. It's like John Big Booty
Yeah.
that's the villain's name.
Yeah.
Like,
and Penny Purdy and was it Handsome Tommy or what is the one that
yeah, handsome. That's his name, I think.
Yeah, something. Yeah, there's just they're great. They're so great.
It's and then it's got a I thought it was gonna kind of be a ripoff of Back to the Future when I first heard of it, because it's got the oscillation thruster,
overthruster,
yes. And it's like, what is this supposed to be, the flux capacitor? Like,
and his mom is played by Jamie Lee Curtis in the deleted scene or whatever. Yeah.
It's just like, how does this movie exist? It shouldn't.
But yet it does. It is amazing. It is like, yes, what did we do as a species to deserve Buckaroo Banzai? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But but luckily we do. And so, but I look at it like this. And you know, from a cinema standpoint, it's all counterbalanced, because on one hand we have Buckaroo Banzai, and it keeps us happy and like, this is inspiring, it's amazing. And the other side we get War of the God Monsters. So it's it's you get some, and then you win some and you lose some. So I'm just glad both exist. I
am too. Well, before we go on to another tangent,
yes,
www.tokutoytown.com, at tokutoytown on Instagram, at Kaiju GO on Instagram, www.kaijugo.com, correct? And then YHS on Monster Island on any podcast platform. Any social medias for that one?
No, we obviously on YouTube, and we do have a Facebook fan group. So if you look at the Monster Island Visitor Center, that will be the official Facebook group for YHS on Monster Island. And it's fun. I mean, it's we're pretty active on there. It's a lot of sharing toy stuff, and like kind of fun, cool kaiju toys that are coming out, and a lot of Safubians, fun stuff like that. But especially if you're a creator or whatever, like, please share your podcasts and stuff on there, because we love to like learn about other people's podcasts and stuff. So that's really kind of where we engage on that front. Or just like Instagram Jacob the Revenge and harass him and just be like, hey dude. He loves that. So, but other than that, no, I'm easy to get a hold of. You can find me somewhere. I'm somewhere. Hey, because no matter where you go, there you are.
There you are. There. You know? That's it. So thank you again, Jay. This was really good. Yeah, it was so fun. Thank you all who tuned in, commented in the chat. Our conversation went in so many directions. We didn't get to the chat really, but thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for engaging. For anybody who tunes into the VOD version, thank you for checking this out. Thank you for listening. Honestly, I always say this, but like, this is probably one of my favorite conversations.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Me too. Me too. That's good, because the show's called Kaiju Conversation. You want the conversations to be good.
Exactly. And strange.
Strange
conversations. Big, strange creature conversations. I mean, I guess I could be a creature. I guess.
100%. 100%.
So thank you all for listening. And with that, we're going to wrap things up here. So all we have left to do is say, please remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.